Naruto, in the name of time, I will shake the ninja world. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1, Hoshino Kaede. Ahem, put on some armor for yourself. Saving your life is the most important thing. Inform readers. The timelines involved in this article were determined by the author after careful consideration, mainly because everyone has their own opinions and it is difficult to unify them. Therefore, please read this rationally. Thank you. 5 years of Konoha. At this time, Konoha village was like a baby, just born, still in the process of reconstruction, and the economy was not prosperous, but it is very warm. The war does not affect this place, so people can have stable families. Zangief was lying in his own courtyard, gazing at the stars in the night sky. He was lost in thought, and his mouth curled up. Sure enough, stability is always better than turmoil. Even though there is disharmony within the organization now, it's better than hiding from each other. He felt the night breeze scratching his cheeks and squinted his eyes, enjoying it very much. Suddenly, he heard a roar and shout from behind, which woke up Zangief immediately. Hoshino Kaede, I've called you several times. Come back for dinner. Hearing these angry words, Zangief did not dare to delay for a moment. He ran and crawled to his feet, patting his clothes as he walked, and replied, I'm coming. He put his shoes away and stepped into the door barefoot. The first thing he saw was his mother, Sakura Kinomoto, who was pinching her waist and looking at him angrily. Seeing this, Zangief decisively admitted his mistake and walked forward with a flattering smile. Mother, I know I was wrong. Sakura Kinomoto's anger was extinguished at once, and she couldn't get angry anymore. She snorted lightly, said something, and turned into the kitchen. Upon hearing this, Zangief, who was able to get away with it, immediately sat down like a good boy. This action made Hoshino Kaede, who was sitting next to him, burst into laughter. Our little adult also has a fearful side. Tisk tisk, how bizarre. Zangief showed a speechless expression, buried his head on the table, and said weakly, Dad, please don't add insult to injury. Hoshino Kaede should know when to stop teasing children and not do it too often. Seeing that he looked listless, she pondered for a moment and said, after dinner, I will teach you how to refine chakra. Bang! Zangief was so excited that he lost his balance and fell to the ground, but he seemed to feel no pain. He blinked his big eyes, extremely excited. Really? Dad, you're not lying to me. Hoshino Kaede, who was suspected, covered his chest with his hands, pretending to be sad. Alice, my son already doubts me, so I guess I should just forget it. Before he finished speaking, Zangief rushed forward and said excitedly, No, I believe it, I believe it. Dad is the best, there is no one in the world who can compare to you. Hoshino Kaede's fierce praise was very effective, and Hoshino Kaede was praised to the point of being ecstatic. Who wouldn't care about the praise from their own son, especially when the son is so mature since childhood? Compared this way, the effect is even greater. Hoshino Kaede nodded in agreement, and then said, Eat quickly, and then go after you finish eating. With his father's assurance, Hoshino went all out and finished the job in a few minutes. Then a pair of big watery eyes stared at Hoshino Kaede. You are so concerned about this, helpless. Hoshino Kaede said hello to his mother and took Hoshino Kaede to the yard. Hoshino Kaede sat cross-legged, his face serious, as if he was about to do something big. On the other hand, Hoshino Kaede was different. He sat in a swaying and casual manner. This is your father's unique chakra refining method, which is no worse than those of the big clans. Remember to keep it well. Hoshino Kaede took out the scroll, his tone somewhat proud. It's as if he's holding some rare treasure in his hand. But Zangief knew that his father was right. This refining method alone was enough to compete with those big clans. This is not a joke. The Konoha of today is not the Konoha of decades later. The concept of family is very serious. They look down on common people and think that they are superior to them and are aristocrats. Naturally, they would not allow ninjutsu to spread out, and it was strictly guarded. Even for the lowest level of ninjutsu, it would be very difficult for civilians to obtain it. The method of refining chakra is the basis of becoming a ninja. If you don't have chakra, you can't use ninjutsu in this way. The method of refining chakra is very precious, and the chakra refining method owned by the big families is passed down from generation to generation, and is much better than the one circulating today as an elite shonen. Hoshino Kaede's strength and status are among the best in Konoha, but his chakra refining method is not inferior to any big clan. Well, I see. Zangief nodded hurriedly. then couldn't wait to open the book and study it, reading with great interest. Hoshino Yoda did not disturb him, nor did he make any move. Thinking, I wonder what Xia Feng's talent is like, if it's not good. Sigh, if the method of extracting excellent chakra is acquired, then a person's talent is innate. Sometimes, you have to admit that talent is the most important thing in this world. For example, for a B-level ninjutsu, an ordinary person needs to practice dozens of times, but a genius can learn it with just one look. This gap cannot be made up by hard work. Perhaps unremitting efforts will catch up one day, but the day is very far away, or may never come. Hoshino Yoda appeared calm on the surface, but he was actually very worried. The current situation is not stable and conflicts may break out at any time. If the son has no talent, then the crisis will always haunt him. It is better to rely on yourself than on others. If you have strong own strength, most problems will be solved easily. Just like him, Elite Jonin is not just a title, he represents strength and experience in battles. He is not a paper tiger. Hoshino Feng naturally didn't know about Hoshino Yoda's worries. At this moment, he was concentrating on the scroll and reading it carefully. As expected, compared to the crude refining methods available in the market, the one my father gave me is very detailed, and he explains some key points in great detail. Is this the benefit of having a family background? No wonder Senju Tobirama wants to weaken the family and improve the status of the common people. Xingai Feng thought about it carefully, and couldn't help but sigh in his heart, but at the same time he felt a little fortunate. Fortunately I have such a father. Although I am not from a big family, I am no less an elite Jonin than those from other families. God has blessed me with a good birth. Hoshino Feng was secretly delighted. He is not from this world. He was born in an orphanage and died while saving someone. One day he originally thought that his life would end here, but he didn't expect that when he opened his eyes, he would come to the world of Naruto. However, he seemed to have arrived a little early, being born in the first year of Konoha. Time flies, and 5 years have passed in the blink of an eye. He has gradually become familiar with his parents in this life. Hoshino Yoda, according to Hoshino Kaede's perception of him on a daily basis, his strength should be at the elite Jonin level. Yes, it was perception. He was born with strong mental power, and there was a rusty clock deep in his mind, although he didn't know what it was. But it was because of that unknown clock that his eyes could see things that others could not see. For example, momentum. Momentum can be strong or weak, and the strongest one he has ever seen is his father. His mother was Sakura Kinomoto, a special Jonin, but after giving birth to her son, she withdrew from the ninja sequence and concentrated on being a housewife. Overall, Kaede Hoshino was very satisfied. The family is harmonious and happy. The family members play around sometimes and it is very warm, but Kaede Hoshino knows that the ninja world will not remain so dull. So, since he was 3 years old, he had been begging his father to teach him how to refine chakra, and it was not until today that his father agreed. Get rid of distracting thoughts and immerse yourself in your mind in a blink of an eye. Half an hour passed, and for some reason, Xingai Feng successfully extracted a strand of chakra, and it was at this moment that the rusty clock in my mind suddenly made a clicking sound. Chapter 2 Bloodline Limit? Clock face. The sound was dreamy and illusory, like a mirage in the mirror and water, extremely unreal. Hoshino Kaede was completely unaware of this and was focused on refining chakra. After another half an hour, he felt physically exhausted and Xingai Feng had to stop refining. When I opened my eyes, I felt a faint sense of soreness throughout my body, as if I had run around Konoha a dozen times. Awake? The first stage of refining is just to adapt. Once you can refine chakra, you can move on to the next stage, Hoshino Yoda said as he massaged his muscles with a skilled technique. Refining must be done in moderation, otherwise it will cause damage to the body. The reason you were not allowed to refine it before was mainly because you were too young. Normally, you can only start refining after you are 5 years old. Hoshino Feng suddenly realized that although refining chakra seemed simple, it was inherently very dangerous. Dad doesn't ask for much. He will be satisfied if I can extract chakra in half a month. Thinking back, he himself only took half a month to refine the chakra, and he was extremely happy at that time. The requirements for my son are not high. As long as he can achieve them, this level is considered a small talent in the ninja world. As long as nothing goes wrong along the way, he can become a Jonin. Half a month? Oh, Dad, your idea may be shattered, Hoshino Kaede said. Hearing this, Hoshino Yoda was puzzled. Could it be that Xia Feng didn't have the talent to be a ninja? This guess was further confirmed by the regretful look on Xingai Feng's face. In his opinion, this was a look of regret for not being able to become a ninja. Oh, it's okay. Even if Xia Feng doesn't have talent, Dad will protect you. Looking at his father talking to himself, Xing Gaifeng's mouth twitched. What on earth is going on in his mind that he would say he has no talent? Seeing that his father was talking more and more outrageously, Xing Gaifeng could no longer sit still and spoke immediately. I've refined it. Oh, it's already been extracted. What? Hoshino Yoda realized what he was saying belatedly, and his voice suddenly rose high, as if he had seen a ghost. He thought he might be hallucinating. How long has it been? About an hour. Seeing that his father still looked skeptical, Hoshino Feng had no choice but to mobilize his weak chakra. It lasted only a second, as weak and short as a candle flame, but this speed was just a snail's pace in Hoshino Yoda's eyes, and he could clearly see chakra in Hoshino Kaede. It turned out to be true. Family members, does anyone know how Hoshino Yoda feels at this moment? The ups and downs are not enough to describe it, and my 3 views have already shown signs of breaking down. Hoshino Yoda's eyes were dull, as if he had lost his soul. Dad, are you okay? Xing Gaifeng pulled the corner of his clothes and asked softly. After saying that, Hoshino Yoda grabbed his shoulders with both hands and said excitedly, "You are such a freak." Hearing this, Xing Gaifeng's face suddenly turned dark, and he rolled his eyes at him. Maybe he knew that what he said was inappropriate. If his son was a freak, then what was he? Hoshino Yoda coughed lightly and suppressed his inner excitement. Ahem, since you have already refined the chakra, I will give you these ninjutsu in advance. Practice them a few more times. Hoshino Kaede looked delighted, as he didn't expect that he had obtained the ninjutsu in advance. Thank you, Dad. After saying thank you, his expression became hesitant, and he seemed to be hesitant to speak. Hoshino Yoda asked in confusion, "What's the matter?" After thinking it over again and again, Xing Gaifeng didn't want to hide it, so he said it. When I was refining chakra just now, I felt something strange moving in my eyes. As soon as these words were spoken, the atmosphere around them suddenly became stagnant, and Hoshino Yoda's expression became gloomy. After a brief thought, he sighed heavily. Really? It seems like you have awakened your bloodline limit. Hoshino Kaede was stunned. What the hell? Bloodline limit? His family actually has a bloodline limit. It is not difficult to hear from Hoshino Yoda's tone that his family had experienced bloodline limits before, otherwise he would not have acted so calmly. He even showed a hint of resistance, as if he didn't want to hear the news. He originally thought about telling his parents about the eyes and letting them think it was a bloodline limit, but this was no longer necessary in the current situation. Dad, has anyone in our family awakened before? Xing Gaifeng asked cautiously and tentatively. Hoshino Yoda didn't think anything was wrong when he heard this, and said with a look of reminiscence in his eyes, "Well, your grandfather awakened several decades ago?" These words made Xing Gaifeng's pupils shrink suddenly. As expected, my family had a similar bloodline limit before, but why had he never heard his dad talk about it? Perhaps in response to Kaede Hoshino's doubts, Hoshino Yoda continued, however, his bloodline limit was only awakened for a few years before he died of the blood disease. Since then, he has never appeared again. After listening to Hoshino Yoda's narration, I finally understood why Hoshino Feng had never seen his grandfather. When asked, Hoshino Yoda never said much. It turned out to be a blood disease, which was like God suppressing the bloodline limit. People who suffered from this disease would die soon. With the current level of ninja medical skills, this is equivalent to an incurable disease. Zio Feng, Hoshino Yoda said solemnly. If you feel unwell, don't hide it. From those dark eyes, Xing Gaifeng saw sadness and pain. Oh, it has just awakened. Dad, you are worrying too much? Xing Gaifeng raised his head and smiled. That innocent and pure smile calmed the somewhat flustered Hoshino Yoda down a little. Hoshino Yoda was at a loss whether to laugh or cry. His son had been very mature since he was young and not naughty at all. He knew that Xing Gaifeng knew his limits, so he didn't say anything more. You practice first. I'll go find the notes your grandfather left behind. Maybe they'll be useful to you. Hoshino Yoda got up and went back to the house, leaving Hoshino Feng alone to practice. Hoshino Feng was not in a hurry to open the scroll to practice. Instead, he walked to the haystack and sat cross-legged. After making sure that no one was around, suddenly, he felt a sense of weightlessness, and after he stabilized, Xing Gaifeng opened his eyes. What comes into view is an antique clock with spots of rust on it, as if it has gone through the baptism of time, but it still retains a sense of solemnity. Just standing there, one can feel the heaviness of history. Hoshino Feng looked around. It was pitch black, with nothing else except the clock in front of him. Helplessly, Xing Gaifeng had to turn his attention to the only clock. After careful observation, Feng Xingao discovered something strange. The dial is divided into 12 parts. Except for the part from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, the rest is dark, as if shrouded in a shadow. Hoshino Feng stretched out his finger and gently touched the dial. In an instant, The entire dial suddenly burst into bright light. The light was so bright that Feng Xingai had to cover his eyes to block the strong light. At the same time, a blue light suddenly emerged from the only clean and shining part. It shot straight into Xingai Feng's eyes at such a fast speed that Xingai Feng had no time to react. He only felt a flash of light before his eyes, and then he lost consciousness. Chapter 3, The Man Who Is God. Tell Hashirama. Konoha Hospital. It was built by Hashirama Senju himself after the village was founded during the Warring States period. Due to the shortage of medical resources, the wounded could not receive good medical treatment after the wars among ethnic groups. This resulted in the death of the injured who could have been treated. In order to prevent this from happening again, Hashirama Senju decided to build a hospital when he built a village, which would be independent of other departments and have autonomy. However, due to the war and immature technology, the number of people was generally small and many diseases were untreatable. Another reason is that most ninjas nowadays pursue high intensity combat techniques and generally look down on medical ninjutsu, which indirectly leads to few people learning it. After Hoshino Kaede lost consciousness, she was sent to the hospital for treatment. Since he was the child of an elite Chunin, the hospital attached great importance to him and sent the director to treat him personally, and he was given a separate ward. This can be considered as a benefit for Hoshino Yoda. Other patients do not have such good treatment. After the dean personally diagnosed and treated the patient, the final conclusion was coma caused by excessive physical fatigue. Hoshino Yang was relieved. He thought it was a blood disease attack, otherwise it wouldn't be so sudden. After one day, Hoshino Feng's eyelids moved slightly, and he slowly opened his eyes quite confused. He fell into coma very suddenly, without any signs, and his memory was only limited to the previous day. Is this a hospital? He looked around and confirmed where this place was, as he had been here before when he was sick. Xingai Feng frowned and thought, gradually recalling the scene in his mind. What was that blue light? Why did I suddenly faint? Could it be that a blood disease has occurred? The more Xingai Feng thought about it, the more outrageous it became. In the end, he even laughed at his own thoughts. How is that possible? The blood disease won't be so fast. Then I tried to use modern thinking to explain the strange phenomenon, but to no avail. Forget it. My body. Hoshino Feng felt himself carefully and his expression suddenly became strange. Then he rubbed his eyes vigorously, thinking that he might have seen a ghost in broad daylight. Fuck, what's going on? Why did my chakra increase so much? Xingai Feng couldn't help but swore. The situation was really too weird. You don't even cheat like this. The chakra that was originally as thin as a thread instantly became as big as a stream in just one day. Hoshino Kaede estimated that this had reached the level of Chunin, and an elite Chunin at that. After a brief moment of shock and daze, ecstasy followed. Just kidding, I also have cheats, so it won't be a dream for me to defeat everyone in the future. Ahem, I've gone off topic. Don't be too arrogant, otherwise God will teach you a lesson. Despite this, the corners of Xingai Feng's mouth remained raised and he had a silly smile on his face. Just as he was immersed in his own world, he heard a creak and the door of the ward was pushed open. Zio Feng, you're awake. The voice was filled with joy and fear, but it was not difficult to hear the concern for Xingai Feng in the words. The person who came was Kaede Hoshino's mother, Sakura Kinomoto. Mom, I'm fine. Xingai Feng tried hard to calm down and return to his normal self. It's as if nothing happened. Sakura Kinomoto was so excited that she picked him up and rubbed him wildly. For a moment, Xingai Feng was more speechless than he was happy before. After a burst of loving care, Sakura Kinomoto gradually calmed down and took a good look at her son. This look uttered a question. Zio Feng, what's wrong with your eyes? Hearing his mother's question, Xingai Feng was a little confused. His eyes are fine. What's so strange about that? Hoshino Feng picked up the mirror beside him and looked at himself. He looks like his father, with a pair of expressive dark eyes. But that was not the case at this moment. The eyes that were originally like black gemstones turned into deep blue, as clean and clear as the sky. It seems as if I can see the endless starry sky through his eyes. Seeing this, Xingai Feng opened her mouth slightly and was shocked. Just one look at these eyes was enough to make his mind involuntarily immersed in them. There is no doubt that these are definitely a pair of eyes that contain great power. It should be because of the awakening of the bloodline limit. Xingai Feng made up a plausible reason, and the timing just happened to fit. After hearing this explanation, Sakura Kinomoto nodded without any doubt. Then he was no longer surprised, but observed carefully, and exclaimed in amazement again, "What beautiful eyes!" Sakura Kinomoto said softly, "They are like two sapphires, shining brightly." Her voice was filled with joy and pride. As a former special Chunin, he naturally knew the power of the bloodline limit. This is extremely rare in the entire ninja world. His son has actually awakened. He is indeed worthy of being her child. Mom, where's Dad? Xingai Feng looked outside the door and asked puzzledly. He was summoned by the Hokage. It should be related to your matter, Sakura Kinomoto said when Zingai Feng heard this. That figure flashed through his mind: the first Hokage of Konoha village, Hashirama Senju, a man known as the god of ninja, whose strength is at the pinnacle of the ninja world. No one can fight him except Uchiha Madara. Zingai Feng liked him very much in his previous life, and he admired his broad-minded heart. Together with Uchiha Madara, he ended the chaos of the Warring States period, established Konoha village, and put an end to the war in the Land of Fire, and indirectly contributed to the cessation of war in the ninja world. How could Zingai Feng not yearn for such a man? The word war sounds light, but only when you are deeply involved in it. Will you understand the preciousness of peace? Thinking of the hardships that the country had suffered in his previous life, Feng Zingai admired this peace-building man even more. On the other side, inside the Hokage building, Hoshino Yoda is being summoned by Senju Hashirama. Things like bloodline limits are also very precious in Konoha today. Unexpectedly, Konoha was in a state of decay decades later, with all kinds of shady tactics emerging one after another. The newly established Konoha is full of vitality, bursting with vigor, like a new seedling. Yoda, you have a good son, Hashirama Senju said cheerfully while wearing the Hokage uniform. He didn't look like a Hokage at all. And next to him was Hashirama Senju. He is Hashirama Senju's younger brother, and the future second generation, of course. At this time he was not yet the iron-blooded second Hokage. Thank you for the compliment, Hokage-sama, Hoshino Yoda responded with his head down respectfully, looking extremely excited because the first Hokage can be said to be the idol of most people. How could he not be excited? Ayako has already told me that your son must have suddenly awakened, causing his body to be unable to bear it for a while. Don't worry, Ayako is the director of Konoha Hospital. She is a member of the Senju clan and has high attainments in medical ninjutsu. Thank you for your concern, Hokage, said Hoshino Yoda. Chapter 4. The Miracle of Reversing Time. Senju Hashirama and Hoshino Yoda talked for a long time. Both of them were full of praise, and Senju Tobirama remained silent throughout the entire time, watching the conversation between the two in silence. Faced with countless words of praise, Hoshino Yoda is not a fool and naturally knows the meaning behind them. However, he was still concerned and looked hesitant. Just as he was struggling, a dark shadow flashed by, knelt on one knee and said, Hokage-sama, Hoshino Kaede is awake. Senju Hashirama waved his hand and nodded, got it. After hearing this, the dark shadow flashed away, as if it had never been there. Hoshino Yoda knew that these words were spoken to the Hokage as well as to him, but there was one thing that always puzzled him. As far as he knew, the Hokage was a cheerful person and would not resort to such means. His eyes moved slightly, and he glanced at Senju Tobirama beside him imperceptibly, and he suddenly realized something. He said calmly, Hokage-sama, Yoda has a favor to ask of you. Oh? Why don't you just speak frankly? Senju Hashirama said gently. My son always mentions the Hokage-sama. I hope to meet him. After he finished speaking, the field suddenly fell silent for a moment. After a few seconds, Senju Hashirama coughed lightly and said with a little embarrassment, in that case, let's do it today. Thank you, Lord Hokage. After saying this, Hoshino Yoda turned and left for the hospital. After the people walked away, Senju Hashirama lay lazily on the chair without any dignity, not looking like the god of ninja world at all. I'm so tired. You are the one who is more suitable for this kind of thing. I won't do this kind of thing next time. Upon hearing this, Senju Tobirama remained silent and looked at Hoshino Yoda, who had disappeared. It seems he doesn't trust the village. Hashirama frowned and said in a low voice, what are you talking about? It's human nature for a father to love his son. Obviously, he strongly disagreed with Tobirama's words. As a father, it is natural for him to love his young children. Even a tiger will not eat its own cubs, let alone humans. In his opinion, this matter has nothing to do with trust or not. Senju Tobirama glanced at his elder brother, but ultimately said nothing and turned to talk about other things. In recent years, the village's population has exploded, and there's not enough space. Senju Hashirama waved his hand nonchalantly, then expanded it. There's a lot of vacant land around here anyway. These deadbeat-like words made Tobirama's eyes twitch. It turns out that you are not the one who did it, but you don't mind the trouble, right? He suppressed his anger and kept repeating it in his mind. This is his elder brother, his real brother, HMPH. Finally, she took a deep breath, snorted and stopped looking at him. Just said it sullenly, don't forget what we agreed on. After waiting for about half a cup of tea, there was a knock on the door. After being allowed, Hoshino Yoda and Hoshino Kaede walked in. Hokage-sama, this is my child. Hashirama Senju looked him up and down and was suddenly stunned. In his perception, Kaede Hoshino already had the chakra of a chunin. He's only 5 years old, but he already has such a large amount of chakra. It's so strange, but I still can't compare to him. The gazes were mutual, and Zingai Feng was also looking at him. A huge wave of emotion rose in his heart. In his eyes, the aura of Senju Hashirama was as powerful as a rainbow, like a bright sun, spanning the sky and earth and reaching into the sky. Is this the weight of the god of ninja world? He has such a powerful aura. The surprise lasted only a moment. After a brief eye contact, Zingai Feng calmed down his agitated mind and bowed generously to greet them. Hello, Hokage. My name is Hoshino Kaede. Hello, little guy. Hashirama was stunned for a second, then said with a smile. Somehow, the words I had prepared were all swallowed down the moment I saw him, and I was speechless. The guilt in my heart disappeared instantly, but Tobirama, who was standing by, couldn't bear to look at it. His eyelids twitched and he sighed deeply in his heart. He shouldn't have let his eldest brother speak. It was too kind. I heard that you have awakened your bloodline limit. Do you know what ability it has? Senju Hashirama asked curiously, ignoring all the instructions and showing no authority at all. Faced with a question, Hoshino Kaede smiled shyly, looking at the first-generation Hokage who had a childlike mentality, and had no intention of hiding anything. Talent must be revealed in order to perform to its true potential rather than hiding it. It is better to attract the attention of higher-ups. Today's Konoha is a great stage to showcase his talents. Yes, I seem to be able to control time. The shocking words and the childish voice of Zingai Feng made everyone present gasp. Even the usually serious Tobirama changed color. This is time. The ninja world is not without space-time ninjutsu, such as the Flying Thunder God technique, which is a time-space ninjutsu. Use the engraved spell to achieve the purpose of instant teleportation. Although it is a space-time ninjutsu, he himself knows that it is just a drop in the ocean compared to time. Being able to manipulate time, doesn't that mean you can reverse life and death? Tobirama is indeed a master of forbidden techniques, as he was able to connect the dots to deeper things with just one sentence. Little guy, are you sure? Hashirama changed his gentle expression and said in a deep voice, if what he said is true, it will be a blessing for Konoha. Zingai Feng didn't hesitate at all. After looking around, his eyes fell on the potted plant on the desk. It is winter now, the spring colors have disappeared, and the leaves have fallen to the ground. Zingai Feng took a few steps forward, reached out to touch it, and his pair of blue eyes flashed with intelligence. Under the nervous gaze of several people, a hint of green gradually appeared in their field of vision. Just like winter goes and spring comes, time is reversed. It really is. Controlling time, Tobirama muttered to himself, his eyes wide open. Ha ha ha. Good. Good, Hashirama laughed loudly. How could he not be happy when such a bloodline limit appeared in Konoha? After being shocked, Tobirama quickly calmed himself down, then flashed and quickly came in front of Hoshino Kaede. Little guy, are you willing to take me as your master? His eyes were burning with desire, and he wished he could get him into his pocket immediately. The bloodline limit of time has never existed in the ninja world before, and this is the only example so far. There are many more surprises that Zingai Feng brought him. I had just seen him in such a hurry that I hadn't noticed the amount of chakra. I only realized it after I calmed down. At only 5 years old, he already has the qualities of an elite chunin. What will he become when he grows up? He kept staring at Zingai Feng with his fiery eyes, as if he was looking at a piece of unpolished jade. Before Hoshino Kaede could respond, Senju Hashirama shouted, Tobirama, I'm still here. Without even turning his head, Tobirama said, brother, let's talk later if you have anything to say. I'm busy, I haven't accepted any disciples yet. So, Hashirama couldn't help but smile as he watched Tobirama pretending to be deaf and dumb. But good seedlings are hard to find, and such good seedlings are even more so. So he was tempted. Zingai Feng's heart was moved, his eyes suddenly lit up, and the words of promise seemed to be about to come out of his mouth. Are you kidding? Who is Hashirama Senju? He is Konoha's biggest supporter now and the first Hokage. If you can become his disciple, you will be able to take off and walk all over Konoha in the future. Seeing him like this, Tobirama lowered his head dejectedly. Needless to say, he was still too slow, and Hashirama's mouth curled up, and he was smiling brightly in his heart, feeling extremely proud, like a victorious rooster. Chapter 5, Become a Disciple of Hashirama. Ahem, brother, please pay attention to your image. Tobirama's mouth twitched slightly, and he said helplessly, holding his forehead with his hand, oh. Hashirama realized it belatedly and quickly became serious, but the result was extremely funny. Hoshino Yoda couldn't help but laugh and turned his head away, but Hashirama didn't care. With a stern face, he walked over to Kaede Hoshino and squatted down. Little guy, do you want to be my disciple? Hashirama's eyes were filled with anticipation, and Zingai Feng did not hesitate. He knelt on his knees, saluted seriously, and said loudly, Disciple Zingai Feng greets the teacher. Upon hearing the expected words, Hashirama's face lit up with joy. Okay, from now on, you will be my disciple, Hashirama Senju. After saying that, he paused and said another sentence. He is also my only disciple. Hashirama said this in a very serious tone, leaving no room for doubt. That domineering aura was fully revealed, leaving people speechless with words to refute. Even if Tobirama had objections in his heart and felt that it was inappropriate, he could not help but keep silent at this time. Hashirama will not give in to him. Tobirama knew this very well. Even though he was his biological brother, Hashirama touched Hoshino Kaede's head and said, "Come to my office tomorrow and I will train you." Feng Hoshino nodded, then took his father's hand and left. After leaving the Hokage's office, Hoshino Yoda breathed a sigh of relief. "Dad, you're too timid," Zingai Feng said contemptuously. "What did you say, you little brat?" Hoshino Yoda's face darkened. "That's the Hokage." "The Hokage? Yeah, I know, my teacher," Hoshino Feng said calmly. Seeing this, Hoshino Yoda was so angry that he gave him a loving lecture. Let him know how high the sky is and how thick the earth is. After the repair, I felt much better. Sure enough, it is true that happiness is built on the suffering of others. Feng Zingai, who had a big bump on his head, took note of it silently and decided to retaliate later. It is never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Even after 20 years, just when he was making the decision, there was a sudden light behind Hoshino Yoda, as if something bad was about to happen. But after looking around for a while, he didn't find anything unusual. So he had to give up. He turned around and gave earnest advice to Zingai Feng. "Remember to listen to Hokage-sama and don't cause trouble for him. Also, it's best not to come into contact with Tobirama-sama." "Oh, never mind. There's no way to avoid it." Although Konoha is led by Hokage-sama, it is actually led by Tobirama-sama. Every move he makes is under his watch. Whenever he mentions Senju Tobirama, his brows never relaxed. When he was alone in the office before, he vaguely guessed that it was Lord Tobirama's idea. Seeing his father's worried look, Zingai Feng couldn't help but admire him and sigh that his father was really good at judging people. Senju Tobirama, the second generation of Konoha village, is a tough man. Putting aside his strength, he is the most powerful among all the Hokage in history. Whether in terms of politics or military acumen, he can be said to be a genius. During his reign, Konoha developed rapidly, improving and establishing various departments. He was an outstanding politician and military strategist. Hoshino Kaede went over the information about Senju Tobirama in his mind. "When I think about it carefully, I feel a sense of admiration in the turbulent situation in Konoha at that time. He used a tough approach to quickly stabilize the situation, and he was definitely a competent Hokage." "Dad, do you have a problem with Tobirama-sama?" After thinking about this, Zingai Feng responded, raising his small eyebrows, seeming a little puzzled. "All his deeds show that Tobirama Senju is a person who strives for perfection. Why do I feel that my father has a grudge against Tobirama? Is there some hidden secret?" Hearing this, Hoshino Yoda gave a bitter smile. How could he not understand the doubt in Hoshino Kaede's tone? After considering his words, he spoke slowly. "No, Tobirama-sama's contributions to Konoha village are obvious to all. He is responsible for all matters big and small in the village." "Then why?" Zingai Feng was even more confused. Hoshino Yoda stopped and turned to look at the Hokage building behind him. A faint sigh. "Perhaps it's because I can't put myself in Tobirama-sama's shoes." After saying that, he touched Zingai Feng's head hard and said with a smile on his face, "Okay, you don't need to worry about these. Just prepare for tomorrow's training. It's going to be hard." Zingai Feng curled his lips in dissatisfaction. "Really? If you don't say anything, it will make people anxious to death." But he knew it was useless to ask. Instead of thinking too much, it is better to look ahead and prepare well for training. "I know," Zingai Feng replied weakly. Then his eyes kept rolling around, and he stretched out his hand and said, "Give me money." "Why? I don't have any money." "It's all with your mother." Hoshino Yoda refused directly. But how could Zingai Feng not know the inside story? He gave a wicked smile. "Dad, if you don't give it to me, I will tell Mom that you hid the private money." And then, woo-woo, woo-woo. Before he could finish his words, he felt a gust of wind flash before his eyes, and then his mouth was blocked by his hand, so he could only make a humming sound and was unable to utter a word. "Shh, you're so cruel. Take it, the situation is stronger than people. Between losing a little and losing everything, you know what to choose." "But how did this brat know where I hid the money?" After getting the money, Zingai Feng's mouth curled up, and then he ran away. When he was sure he was safe, he turned back and gave him a triumphant smile. "You swindled me, you little brat." When Hoshino Yoda saw his expression, he suddenly realized what was going on and was so angry that he jumped up and down. But since things had come to this point, He had no choice but to swallow his anger. Hoshino Feng jumped back and forth happily, but he didn't know that after he left, Hoshino Yoda showed a helpless expression. This kid is still a little naive to fight his father. Kid Hoshino was completely unaware of this and was leisurely strolling around the streets of Konoha, buying whatever she liked. This, and this. Hey, these are all the ones I like to eat. After a while, Zingai Feng's hands were stuffed full and his mouth was oozing with oil. After Konoha was established, the economy developed rapidly following the proposal and planning of Senju Tabirama. Sharp-eyed merchants from all over the world saw the business opportunity and came to Konoha to set up shops in an instant. A commercial street appeared. Although the product categories are simple, it is better than nothing. A person should be content and happy anyway. Hoshino Kaede is very happy. Of course, it would be better if he didn't encounter any trouble. There are a large number of people coming and going in the commercial street, and people are needed to maintain order, otherwise chaos will occur. Senju Hashirama convened a meeting and specifically discussed the matter, and decided that each clan would send personnel to temporarily maintain order. We will discuss it again later. The idea is good, and at least it is maintained well on the surface. However, there are always some conceited people who like to bully civilians in order to show their own strength. Chapter 6, Hokage Family. This kind of bloody plot is everywhere, and there are countless of them in novels. Zingai Feng is no exception. Just as I was about to buy some special snacks to bring back from my mother, a voice full of disdain suddenly rang out. Humph, letting lowly commoners like you live here is already a blessing, and you still want money. What the hell? I really don't know what those senior executives are thinking. It's such a waste of air. Sarcastic and humiliating words came out of his mouth, and the people on the street who were arguing with him couldn't help but show angry expressions after hearing them. Hoshino Kaede moved closer with an expressionless face. Although I have a general idea in my mind, I will start to see the truth first, just in case you are going too far. Before you came, the price was already agreed upon and the ninja sword was also given to you. You still think you are right? Looking closely, I saw a middle-aged man with a red face and full of anger, arguing although he was the one who was right. Feng Zingai always felt that he was just holding on, like a paper tiger. Do not know what's going on while he was thinking. Many people were already whispering around him. The voices were not loud, but Hoshino Feng could hear them. After listening for a while, the doubts in his heart suddenly dissipated, his eyes narrowed, and I don't know what he was thinking. Oh, it's them again. This is the 5th time this month, isn't it? Relying on being a ninja, he does whatever he wants and oppresses the people. The Aishin clan leader has just moved to Konoha. He is unfamiliar with the place, so naturally he cannot defeat them. Patriarch. This is interesting. Zingai Feng touched his chin. He is actually the patriarch of a clan, but it should be a small family, otherwise it would not have fallen to this point. I was blackmailed by a guy who barely reached the rank of Chunin. Maybe he felt that he had just arrived in Konoha and didn't want to cause trouble. Konoha is now developing, and it is inevitable that some monsters will emerge and ruin Konoha's reputation. But everything that happened in his past life taught him that the more you show weakness, the more others will bully you. But the clan leader named Yizin probably won't make too much trouble. Things turned out just as he expected. The middle-aged man's argument was fruitless. Looking at the smug looks on the men, he clenched his fists tightly, but soon loosened them. Seeing his appearance, those people became even more rampant and laughed wildly, as if they felt they had done something great. Ha ha ha, the untouchables are indeed untouchables. They don't even put up a resistance. How boring, forget it. I'm in a good mood today. I don't want to waste time with you. It's just a waste of time. I thought he was a man, but I didn't expect him to be so boring. The leader said regretfully. The expression on the face of the Yixin clan leader was gloomy, and it was unknown how much intense anger was hidden beneath that calm face. Anyone who is mocked like this would probably get angry and hurt others. Seeing that the troublemakers were about to leave, Zingai Feng curled the corners of his mouth and narrowed his eyes slightly, and a faint blue light appeared under the sunlight. In an instant, the pupils emitted inexplicable ripples that began to spread in all directions. Suddenly, the people or things centered on Kaede Hoshino seemed to be banned, and everything slowed down. I have time, slowness. Everything around me became extremely slow, and the flow of time was slowed down in the space in Feng Hoshino's eyes. What he saw were slow people, and this feeling was very strange. Their movements became extremely slow, like a slow motion in a movie. Every subtle movement became clearly visible, and even the inaudible breathing and heartbeat slowed down. The tiny dust particles in the air are visible under the golden sunlight and are no longer mysterious. It's as if time has stood still. The whole world became quiet and weird. Only Zingai Feng's own thoughts were still running at a normal speed. This magical phenomenon allowed him to clearly and intuitively see the power of time at this moment. He was like a god, and life and death were no longer unsolvable problems. It seemed as if he could change it at any time if he wanted. An inexplicable excitement and impulse surged in my heart, but reason eventually prevailed, and Zingai Feng slapped his cheeks hard to calm his brain. Don't be arrogant, don't be arrogant, pride will make you fall behind. Zingai Feng, can such a thing shake your faith? Calm down. Calm down. Zingai Feng kept reminding himself not to get too immersed in it. Being powerful doesn't mean you have perfect control. You need a heart that can match its power to control it, otherwise, you will just be a puppet of power. After repeating it several times, the initial excitement in my brain began to cool down. Take a deep breath and then get down to business. I came to the person who was making trouble for no reason and looked at his arrogant face. Feeling disgusted, she searched his body with a frown on her face. After a moment, I had a thick stack of banknotes in my hand, and I was immediately satisfied. Then he turned his attention to other people and wanted to repeat the same trick just as Hoshino Feng was about to take action. The chakra needed to maintain the space was about to run out. Helpless, I could only sigh with regret and give up. After returning to the original position, he lifted the pupil technique, and the flow of time instantly returned to normal. Everything was so normal, it's boring, let's go. Seeing that he was suppressing his anger and not taking any action, the leader suddenly felt bored and left with the others. When the onlookers saw that the matter was settled, they dispersed one after another, leaving behind the Yizin tribe leader who looked unwilling. But no matter how unwilling I am, this is the only way. The Yizin tribe leader, with a dejected look on his face, turned around dejectedly and was about to go back into the house. After taking a few steps, he suddenly felt the corner of his clothes being pulled. He looked down and saw the smiling Feng Zingai. Seeing that it was a child, he forced a smile. Kid, is something wrong? Uncle, are you new to Konoha? Asked Hoshino Feng. Yes. Hearing this, the man hesitated for a moment and nodded. After all, it's not a secret and there's nothing wrong with it. You can find out by just asking around. So what do you think of Konoha? Hoshino Kaede asked a very vague question. The man was obviously stunned. It was indeed strange to hear this question coming from a child, but he answered anyway. It's very good and peaceful. It's much better than running around outside. There was finally a hint of smile on the man's gloomy face. When it comes to Konoha, the level of recognition is still very high. Even though there are some individual scumbags among them, the overall impression is still good. Perhaps it was because he had something to talk about, so he started talking about his own affairs again, and he didn't think there was anything wrong with talking to a child. It was as if he was treating Kid Hoshino as someone he could confide in. I was originally a samurai. After Konoha was established, I thought it was a good place, so I came here with my wife to settle down. Fortunately, my Hokage clan was valued by the Hokage and was given more land. Although we are not rich, it is good enough for my family to live in peace. As Hokage Aishin spoke, the gloom on his face completely disappeared, replaced by a yearning and expectation for life. What he didn't see was that when he mentioned the Hokage clan, the expression on Hoshino Kaede's face had become extremely strange. Oh my god, I can run into a celebrity's family just by strolling down the street. This is really good luck. Chapter 7. My name is Uchiha Madara. The Hokage clan is not well known among the families, and even their population is pitifully small, so they can't even be considered a family. But the appearance of one person changed this seemingly ordinary family. Hokage Tsukumo, also known as the White Fang of Konoha, is well known in the ninja world for his swordsmanship. Even the three ninjas of Konoha are slightly inferior in terms of seniority and strength because of his great military achievements. He was targeted by the root in the shadows, which led to the failure of the mission and the spread of rumors. It is said that there are 3 generations behind it. Finally, he couldn't stand the rumors and committed suicide by cutting his stomach open. After his death, his son, Hatake Kakashi, began to shine. He graduated at the age of 5, became a Chunin at the age of 6, and a Jonin at the age of 12. It was like he was cheating. Both the father and the son were like this, which made the prestige of the Hokage clan gradually increase. Unfortunately, both of them ended up badly. One died, and the other was trapped in the tragic memories of the past. Thinking of this, Feng Hoshino looked at Aishin Hatake with a hint of sympathy in his eyes. When people get old, they always like to chat with others. Don't mind it. Hatake Aishin smiled at himself. In the ninja world, life expectancy is generally low, so considering his age, it is reasonable to say that he is old. Why, I like listening to it very much. Uncle, can you forge ninja swords here? Hoshino Feng then asked other questions. Hatake Aishin was stunned for a moment, but nodded. Of course. Do you need a child at home? No, I want it. You want a ninja sword at such a young age? This is not a fun toy. Hatake Aishin frowned. The ninja sword is not a wooden sword. If one is not careful, it will cause an irreparable tragedy. He felt that such a young child should not use a ninja sword. Hoshino Feng saw that Hokage Aishin was somewhat reluctant, so he quickly spoke. I have already extracted the chakra, and my family agrees. No way. If my mother saw it, she would probably scold me again. Upon hearing what he said, Hokage Aishin looked at him with a frown, and then his expression changed slightly. It was just as he said. Moreover, at this age, with this amount, it's a bit scary. Although he is not a ninja, his eyesight is good and he can naturally detect the fluctuations of chakra. He was not mistaken. There were already enough elite shunins. Okay, come back in a few days and I'll give you a 20% discount on the price. Hokage Aishin agreed and even gave the discount. Hoshino Feng smiled and then took out money from his pocket. I don't know if it's enough. If it's not, I'll make it up next time I come. Hokage Aishin patted his head, took 70% of the money, and then let him take it back. That's enough. Zingai Feng counted silently in his mind, then immediately looked up at him with a frown. Uncle, you took less money, haha, the rest is just a greeting gift. Hokage Aishin smiled, and at the same time he admired the little guy's honesty. But, okay, Hoshino Feng wanted to say something else, but Uncle Aishin had already turned and left, as if he had done it on purpose with no other choice. I had to accept his kindness, and before leaving, I thanked him loudly outside the door. I don't know if Uncle Yixin can hear me. After thanking him repeatedly, Zingai Feng left inside the Flagwood house. When Hokage Aishin heard the little guy's thanks, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise. A nice little guy, he murmured, and just then, a woman walked towards him and said, what's wrong? Are the troublemakers giving you a headache? No, not them, it's a funny little guy. Hokage Aishin shook his head and said casually, no more talking. I'll introduce you to him next time I have a chance. I feel like there's more to him than just this. The woman nodded and didn't ask any further questions. She believed her husband, Hoshino Feng, was walking along the road to go home, humming a song, which showed that he was in a good mood. Not only did he get to know Hatake Tsukumo's father, but he also customized a ninja sword for him who didn't have the urge to wield swords and guns when they were young. If you didn't have this opportunity in your previous life, you can make up for it in this life. Hoshino Feng was concentrating on thinking about how handsome he would look holding a knife. I didn't see the person in front of me, and then, bang dong, Hoshino Kaede bumped headfirst into the person in front of him, knocking him to the ground with such force he fell on his solid butt. Ouch, that hurts so much. Sorry, I was distracted. Hoshino Feng dusted himself off and said apologetically, I was so focused just now that I didn't notice the person in front of me. Are you the apprentice that Hashirama accepted? The man looked him up and down. His tone was full of disdain, and he seemed dissatisfied. Hoshino Kaede paused noticeably, then raised his head and looked at the person in front of him. Who are you? Hoshino Kaede said warily, his body tense. He didn't know how strong the person in front of him was, and the chakra he had consumed before had not yet recovered. It is impossible to accurately judge the strength of the person coming, but judging from the aura he inadvertently revealed, he is stronger than his father, a strong ninja. Zingai Feng thought so. You're alert, but it's a little late. If you were an enemy, you'd be dead. He spoke bluntly, not caring if they were children or not, as if that was just the way he spoke. Although the tone is hurtful, it is useful. Konoha is not peaceful right now, and there are many spies. If you encounter this now, you will definitely die. You are not qualified to be Hashirama's apprentice. At the end of his words, the man's momentum suddenly surged, forming an oppressive force, and pounced towards Zingai Feng in an instant. I felt cold all over, as if I had fallen into an ice cellar at this moment. All the blood in my body seemed to freeze. Zingai Feng felt that his whole body was out of control, but his eyes were still stubborn and he held on. Seeing this, a hint of admiration flashed in the man's eyes, but then disappeared the next second. Everything returned to calm, and the powerful pressure suddenly disappeared. Feng Zingai knelt on the ground, his back already soaked with sweat, and he was breathing heavily. You are too weak. You will only embarrass him now. The man walked up to him and spoke to Zingai Feng in a condescending and arrogant manner. Hoshino Feng recovered some strength and stood up with difficulty. Although he was in a miserable state, his eyes were firm and he did not retreat at all. No one is strong from the beginning. Everyone has to grow up. In the future, I will definitely surpass my teacher, for sure. Hoshino Kaede is extremely determined and confident. If other people heard him, they would definitely laugh at him for overestimating his own abilities, but the man just curled his lips and looked at him again. Then he walked forward and left a message for him as he passed by. I admire your confidence, but I also hate your confidence. I hope that day will come Hoshino Kaede turned around and shouted with all his remaining strength, "What's your name? I'll prove it to you. My name is Uchiha Madara." A domineering and extremely conceited voice came, and disappeared from his side in the blink of an eye. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8, Load, Pressure is Also Motivation. My name is Uchiha Madara. The domineering and conceited voice echoed in Zingai Feng's ears for a long time. His eyes suddenly widened and his heart surged. He didn't expect it to be Uchiha Madara. His appearance was a little different from decades later as a result. He didn't recognize it at first, but he's probably the only one who would use this tone. It fits his personality, the Shura of the ninja world. That day won't be too far away. Zingai Feng lowered his head and spoke confidently, with a fighting spirit brewing in his eyes this time. Uchiha Madara's arrival gave him a wake-up call. The ninja world is cruel, and there is no order. Even in Konoha, there are turbulent waves behind the scenes to survive. You can only rely on strength. He lived too comfortably, which made him lose his fighting spirit. Zingai Feng stood there in a daze. After thinking for a long time, he chuckled and left. The gradually receding figure no longer looked relaxed, as if the body was carrying layers of pressure. After returning home, the usually lively Hoshino Kaede said nothing. As she walked straight to her room, Kinomato Sakura asked with a puzzled look, "What's wrong with him?" Hoshino Yoda shrugged, "I don't know. It became like this after I went out for a while." These indifferent words successfully earned her a glare. Sakura Kinemato's hair fluttered and the anger in her eyes seemed to overflow. Seeing this, Hoshino Yoda immediately chuckled twice, then got up and ran to his son's room. After knocking on the door and getting permission, Hoshino Yoda pushed the door open and saw Hoshino Kaede looking at the scroll he gave him. "The way he studies hard is just like you who are reading a novel." Just as Hoshino Yoda was about to speak, Hoshino Feng spoke first. "Dad, I'm fine, okay, remember to keep track of the time." Seeing his son's serious look, Hoshino Yoda couldn't bear to disturb him. After saying something like "pay attention to the time," he walked out. Silence returned to the room. Hoshino looked at the ninjutsu scroll given by his father and began to study it seriously. Hoshino Yoda is a ninjutsu-type ninja who knows many ninjutsu and is an elite jonin. Yoda knows one or more S-level ninjutsu. Most of the ninjutsu on the scrolls are below B level, with a few being A level. Zingai Feng looked back, and suddenly his gaze paused, his eyes becoming fiery because he saw ninjutsu that was extremely suitable for him. Flying Thunder God technique. Hoshino Kaede took a breath of cold air. How come my father has this kind of ninjutsu? This is a time-space ninjutsu. It was created by the second-generation leader, Hashirama Senju, and later perfected by Minato Namikaze, and became very popular on the battlefield. Logically speaking, this should be a forbidden technique, stored in a sealed book and guarded by layers of defense. Even if his father was an elite jonin with outstanding military achievements, that shouldn't have been easily obtained. Just as he was wondering, Hoshino Yoda came back again, saw Hoshino Feng's puzzled expression, and asked, "What's wrong? Is there something you don't understand?" Hoshino Feng was too immersed in the conversation to pay much attention and spoke subconsciously, "I was just wondering why this jutsu was here." After saying this, Hoshino Feng realized something was wrong and came to his senses. Only then did he see the figure of Hoshino Yoda. Hearing his doubts, Yang Tai looked over, then touched his head and explained with a smile, "Don't be confused. This was sent by Lord Tobirama. He said it is very suitable for you, so that's how it is." Zingai Feng nodded thoughtfully. It seems that it was because of his own time bloodline limit that Tobirama sent someone to deliver it. But does he trust me so much to give such a difficult technique to a kid? Hoshino Kaede complained in his heart. As a forbidden technique, the difficulty of practicing Flying Thunder God can be imagined, and as it involves time and space, the difficulty increases exponentially since its creation. Apart from Hashirama Senju, only Namikaze Minato has successfully practiced it for decades. You can imagine the failure rate. "By the way, Dad, can you buy me some weights? I want to exercise," Hoshino Kaede said. Although there are bloodline limits, the body is the foundation of everything. Physical skills are not valued in the ninja world, but he doesn't know how to do it. "Didn't you see that Might Guy almost kicked out the enemy with his 8 gates? This shows that physical skills are not weak." Hearing this request, Yang Tai stroked his chin and thought about it. "As for weights, we have some at home, but the weight isn't suitable for you. I'll go buy some on the street later." He thought about it carefully and felt that Xiao Feng could not bear that kind of weight, so he wanted to go to the street to customize it. Zingai Feng heard this and said, I want to go and take a look. If it's not suitable, forget it. Seeing that his son still insisted, Yang Tai couldn't refuse, so he took Zingai Feng to the utility room at home to look for it. Please try it, but be careful not to force it. Hoshino Yoda felt the weight with his hand and confirmed that it was too heavy for a child to bear, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. He knew Zingai Feng's temper. Although he seemed gentle, he was actually very stubborn and would never turn back until he was beaten to a bloody pulp. As a father, he still felt soft-hearted and didn't want to see Zingai Feng suffer even though he knew it was wrong to do so. A ninja's job was to endure things that ordinary people couldn't endure. Hoshino Feng took the weight, and when Yang Tai let go, he suddenly frowned at the heavy feeling. It's so heavy. It's at least 1/3 of his body weight. The number may seem small, but if it is placed on a 5-year-old child, it cannot be underestimated. After all, the body is not fully developed yet, and the endurance and physical strength are very limited. Putting on the weights, the whole set weighs more than twice his weight. It's like carrying 2 people on your body. Forget it, Zio Feng. This is not good for your health. You should exercise properly. Looking at Zingai Feng, whose face was red and even his breathing was a little difficult, Yang Tai couldn't bear it and persuaded him. I'm fine. I know my limits. Don't worry, Zingai Feng uttered a sentence with difficulty. Now it seemed that even speaking took a lot of energy for him. Yang Tai had a look of pity in his eyes, and his throat rolled as if he wanted to say something, but in the end he just sighed heavily. Feng Zingai tried to take a step forward, but the weight on his ankle made him stagger and he almost fell. Fortunately, I managed to stabilize myself in time and did not fall to the ground. The sudden weight of his body made Zingai Feng feel quite uncomfortable, but he did not give up and continued to adapt and move forward. The scorching sun shone on him, beads of sweat the size of beans kept dripping to the ground, and time passed slowly. An hour later, Zingai Feng moved forward steadily. It must be said that his body adapted very well, although he was still a little uncomfortable with the pressure, but at last it has gained a firm footing and is no longer shaky. This is a good beginning. Yang Tai, who witnessed the whole process, couldn't help but be moved and full of emotion on his face. If you have both talent and perseverance, there is no need to worry about not making progress at this moment. Zingai Feng possessed the basic qualities of a strong person. Chapter 9, The Mastermind, The Door. As night falls, the sky is covered with black velvet and the stars twinkle in the darkness, like a beautiful city in the sky. Feng Zingai was lying in his yard, breathing heavily and gazing at the clear starry sky. I have been adapting for the whole day and my physical strength has been drained. I have to rely on my perseverance to persevere. Fortunately, the results were good. After a day, my body was forced to adapt. Looking at the clothes that seemed to be soaked by water, Zingai Feng smiled. This seemed to be the first time he had experienced this. Although his muscles were aching, he felt very satisfied in his heart. He squinted his eyes and enjoyed the breeze blowing past his ears. A night without words. The next day, Hoshino Kaede was trying to comfort the angry Sakura Kinomoto with a flattering smile. Mother, I know I was wrong. Please don't be angry. I was so tired last night that I fell asleep as soon as I lay down. Listening to Hoshino Kaede's explanation, Sakura Kinomoto gave him a glare, which made Hoshino Kaede silent and felt a chill on his back. How dare you say that? If I hadn't gone over to check on you, you would have caught a cold today. When the time comes, I will see how you explain it if you delay the time agreed with a Hokage, Sakura Kinomoto said angrily, her fingers constantly tapping on his forehead. Zingai Feng wanted to defend himself, but when he saw his mother's expression, he immediately lost the idea. I was scolded by Sakura Kinomoto for a long time. Hoshino Yoda tried to hold back his laughter and his face almost turned purple. I'll let you go today and we'll talk about it after you get home. Eat quickly and don't keep the Hokage waiting. After talking for a while, Sakura Kinomoto looked at the time, then decided to stop and asked Kaede Hoshino to eat quickly. There are important things to do today, so we can't let the Hokage wait. Anxiously, when Zingai Feng heard these words that seemed to be driving him away, his eyes suddenly turned dead, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. This family are all Naruto fans. It's true that people of the same family tend to be alike helpless. Zingai Feng had to speed up his eating. After finishing a few bites, he changed his clothes and still wore the weights. After everything was ready, Zingai Feng stood at the door and waved to his parents and said, I am leaving, then head towards the Hokage building. Zingai Feng was not idle while walking on the road. He kept moving his fingers and practicing hand seals to release ninjutsu. You need to make hand seals, and there are 12 seals in total. It seems like a lot, but it is actually very difficult. Fortunately, they are children and their finger bones have not yet been formed. At the age of 3, he was unable to refine chakra, So he had to practice hand seals to increase his speed. After 2 years, there have been obvious results. Being able to make 2 seals in 1 second already made Xingai Feng very happy. This speed is common in the ninja world, which means that at the age of 5, he has reached the average level of hand seals. After repeating this several times, Xingai Feng quickened his pace. Before I even reached the Hokage building, I could hear a lot of people talking very loudly. Have you heard that the Hokage-sama is accepting a disciple? I knew it a long time ago. I knew it as a child. Nonsense. Can he still be an adult? I don't know who he is. But he is actually accepted as a disciple by the god of ninja world. I'm really envious. The closer they got to the Hokage building, the louder the discussions became. Hoshino Kaede suddenly felt her scalp tingling and she was secretly distressed. It's been less than a day and the news has spread. It must have been intentional by Senju Tobirama. That must have been it without any evidence at all. Kaede Hoshino blamed everything on Tobirama Senju out of spite, who asked them to be the only ones present that day. My father is not the kind of person who likes to show off, and my teacher is even less likely to do so. Therefore, the mastermind behind this must be Senju Tobirama. When Hoshino Kaede thought about becoming a celebrity, every move she made from then on would represent the Hokage. I couldn't help but feel resentful and roaring in my heart. Senju Tobirama, you tricked me. Hoshino Kaede tried hard to conceal her presence and prepared to sneak into the Hokage building. The idea is good, but things don't always go as planned. Senju Tobirama crossed his arms across his chest, as if waiting for someone. When he saw Hoshino Kaede, the corners of his mouth curled up. Then he said lightly, "You are here. Big brother is waiting for you in the office." A few words made Xingai Feng's face freeze instantly. He didn't care about other people's reactions and ran away only after the run was over did the crowd react. There is no doubt that the only person who can ask Tobirama Senju to come and pick him up is the disciple of Hokage. Many people who were closest to Hoshino Kaede looked annoyed. It feels like I have lost something important. They are all from small families, hoping to have some relationship with the Hokage's disciples. At the very least, we should maintain good relationships so that it will be easier to get things done in the future. The identity of Hokage's disciple is not something to be joked about. Now such a good opportunity was lost right before their eyes, and they felt extremely regretful. Xingai Feng didn't care about the reaction outside. He ran and crawled, fearing that he would be caught up. The whole person feels like fleeing from famine. When he arrived at the Hokage's office, he breathed a sigh of relief, and at the same time secretly made a note of Senju Tobirama. He definitely did it on purpose. Feng Xingai cursed in his heart hundreds of times while sulking. Then he calmed himself down and pushed the door open. Senju Hashirama was wearing the Hokage's hat and couldn't help laughing when he saw the depressed look on Hoshino Kaede's face. Ha 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 ha. Teacher Xingai Feng shouted in dissatisfaction to express his dissatisfaction. Ahem, sorry, I couldn't help it. Senju Hashirama coughed lightly. With his perception ability, he naturally knew what Tobirama had done. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's go to the training ground and test your level. Hashirama quietly changed the subject, then formed a seal and white mist emerged. A person who looks exactly like Hashirama appears. I can't leave for the time being. Let my shadow clone take you to the training ground first. As the Hokage, at least he is the Hokage in name only, although most of the things are done by Tobirama, but that doesn't mean being Naruto is easy. Especially after 5 years of development, various contradictions broke out and some institutional risks emerged. For this purpose, Tobirama discussed with him and decided to hold a general meeting at that time. All the families of Konoha will be present at the moment. Hashirama is having a headache about this matter. If various interest disputes are not handled properly, Konoha will fall into chaos. This was not the result he wanted. Oh, by the way, did you receive the gift Tobirama gave you? Hashirama suddenly said something. Xingai Feng was stunned for a moment, then replied, "Got it. How do you feel about it? Is it difficult?" Well, Xingai Feng smiled mysteriously. Teacher, you will definitely be surprised. Hashirama raised his eyebrows and looked at the confident Hoshino Kaede, and couldn't help but have an astonishing guess in his heart, but he didn't ask. Instead, he shook his head and smiled, then lowered his head and began to think distressedly. Seeing this, Xingai Feng followed the shadow clone out and came to a private training ground. Chapter 10 Battle and the Sealed Book. You can use this place as you like from now on. No one will come, Hashirama said to Hoshino Kaede. Hoshino Kaede blinked her eyes. This training ground was very large, probably prepared for the Hokage. However, Hashirama didn't need it, so he got it for free. Then, at Hashirama's signal, Hoshino Kaede began to warm up and move his body. A quarter of an hour later, Hashirama waved at him and said, "Now, let's practice sparring. Let me see your strength." The corner of Hoshino Feng's mouth twitched. "Please, it's only been a few days since I started refining chakra, and now we have to start fighting. But now that things have come to this, the teacher has already spoken, so I have no choice but to go ahead and do it if I'm not mistaken. Hashirama probably wants to see his own bloodline limit. The two men fought to one side, and Senju Hashirama just stood there without making any movement, waiting for Hoshino Kaede to attack. Hoshino Kaede took out a kunai from the ninja tool bag and opened his deep blue eyes. Eyes of Time, open, Eye of Time, super speed. With the help of the Eye of Time, Fang Hoshino then moved quickly, like lightning, and disappeared in a flash. At this amazing speed, Fang Zingai's own time was sped up, as fast as thunder. It's fast, but it's not enough on its own, Hashirama commented with a smile, and Hoshino Kaede also knew it. Then he formed seals with his hands, and 3 identical versions of him emerged from the white mist. You've learned the art of clone so quickly. That's incredible. Hashirama's eyes changed and he praised her. On the surface, the degree of completion is very high, and there are basically no flaws. Taking advantage of this distraction, the 4 of them rushed forward and attacked his body. The attack was too obvious, and Hashirama dodged it as if he was strolling in the garden, with no intention of fighting back. No, if that's the case, then I really underestimated you. Hashirama was harsh in his words and tried to distract Hoshino Kaede from her focus. Hoshino Fang turned a deaf ear to him, exerted force with his wrist, and shot out the kunai, but as he had never practiced before, it was no surprise that he missed the target. Zio Fang. You need to work on your kunai throwing technique. Your aim is so poor. Hashirama laughed without hesitation. This move really made him laugh. Facing the ridicule, Zingai Fang remained expressionless, but a gleam of light flashed in his eyes and his figure disappeared in an instant. The sound of metal collision was heard for the first time, and Hashirama used a kunai to block the sudden attack. This is Flying Thunder God. No way, it's only been a short time. Hashirama's eyes were filled with astonishment. If he had not been on guard all the time, he would have probably been hit. Teacher, don't underestimate me. Zingai Feng raised his eyebrows, then did a backflip and used the reverse thrust to get into the air. Eye of Time, slow. In an instant, the space slowed down dozens of times, and Hoshino Kaede fell from the sky, carrying a sharp kunai with him. But how could the god of the ninja world fall into the trap so easily? Just when he was about to succeed, a big hand firmly grabbed Zingai Feng's wrist. It's Senju Hashirama. Hoshino Kaede was full of disbelief. She didn't expect that even under the slowing effect, Hashirama could still move while he was stunned. Senju Hashirama winked at him and then kicked him with great force. Suddenly, Zingai Feng fell from the sky like a kite with a broken string. Zingai Feng covered his stomach, knelt on the ground and retched, his face like a mask of pain. The kick was not polite at all, and it made him produce stomach acid. Just as he was feeling the unbearable pain, he suddenly saw the light dim and Zingai Feng raised his head. I saw Hashirama coming in front of him, sitting down on the ground generously, and then touching his head hard. Good boy, you really gave me a big surprise. Good. Faced with the compliments, Zingai Feng barely revealed a very forced smile. After all, he had just been kicked hard in the stomach and had not yet recovered. Ahem, teacher, you almost kicked me to death. Zingai Feng had a resentful look on his face, as if accusing him of using too much force. In response, Hashirama laughed loudly, supported himself on the ground with his hands, and said with his face raised to the sky, Zio Feng, I'm glad that you were born in Konoha and were able to grow up in peace. No need to worry and be ready to go to the battlefield at any time. This kind of peaceful life is what I pursue and yearn for all my life. Now, although I have done it, I have a feeling that Konoha may undergo earth-shaking changes in the future. Maybe it's because I'm old. I'm always worried about this and that. Hashirama looked at the blue sky and muttered to himself like a housekeeper after listening to such a long passage expressing concern for Konoha. Fang Hoshino fell silent because the teacher was right. His premonition was very accurate. Within a few years after his death, war broke out, and the second generation died in the war, and the third generation took over at the beginning. Sarutobi Hiruzen was quite smart and capable, and he made Konoha strong, but power is like poison. Just a sip will corrode your whole body, and you can never get rid of it. During the later period of the third generation's reign, Konoha was in a state of chaos. White Fang was forced to death, almost all of the Senju clan was killed, and the Uchiha were also slaughtered. It can be said that the two major families that founded Konoha were destroyed by the third generation together with the other three. They still hold most of the power in Konoha. This resulted in the Hokage's power being hollowed out, leaving Danzo to grow bigger and stronger. The series of events that followed caused Konoha to decline little by little. The title of the former largest village in the ninja world is now in name only. and the village can only swallow its anger and allow itself to be bullied by others. It can be said to be extremely cowardly. Hoshino Kaede lowered his head, not knowing what to say. Seeing Hashirama's frustrated look, all the words of comfort seemed so pale and powerless. Zio Feng, Hashirama came back to his senses and looked at him. Please help me watch it grow up. The voice was very soft. As if it was a last will and testament, Hoshino Feng opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but in the end he just nodded vigorously. Thank you. Hashirama chuckled and then talked about his story. Your bloodline limit is very strong. If the difference in strength is not too great, ordinary people will not be able to break free. A good sword needs to be paired with a good hand. Hashirama's strength is far beyond that of Hoshino Kaede. That's why he was able to break free. Even I don't think this is a bloodline limit. Hashirama sighed and expressed his guess. Zingai Feng touched his nose guiltily. Is a man's intuition really so accurate? But no matter how strong you are, you can't use your full power, so train hard. I can't teach you anything about your bloodline limit. You can only rely on yourself. As Hashirama spoke, he took out the scroll, then formed a seal and released it, and a burst of white mist past a scroll half a meter wide suddenly appeared in his hand. Zingai Feng was in a daze, looking surprised because what Hashirama was holding in his hand was the scroll that recorded all of Konoha's forbidden techniques. Name, the sealed book. Teacher, this is against the rules. Zingai Feng came back to his senses and twitched his mouth. Hashirama smiled brightly and said nonchalantly, I am the Hokage, and do I need anyone's permission to give a gift to my disciple? Is this for me? Zingai Feng's eyes suddenly widened and he pointed at himself in disbelief. Of course, as a teacher. This is my gift to you. This is a replica of the sealed book. The real thing is not this. After being stunned for a long time, Zingai Feng took it, still feeling a little unbelievable. Is it so easy to get Konoha's sealed book? Chapter 11. The hard days ahead. Why, you seem quite surprised. It's just a sealed book. The techniques in it are not as powerful as my would release. Hashirama waved his hand in front of him. Hoshino Feng chuckled. Perhaps only the god of the ninja world would not take this thing seriously. You can learn as much as you can. Although you have a bloodline limit, knowing some ninjutsu is also a variety of means. You call forbidden techniques ninjutsu? Learn as much as you can. Teacher, you have a really big heart. Zingai Feng was screaming madly in his heart suddenly. Hashirama stared at him for a long time, and Hoshino Kaede couldn't help but shudder. What's wrong, teacher? Well, it's okay. I just want to say that Ifu should act within his ability. Hashirama patted his shoulder and spoke earnestly. He could tell at a glance that the weight worn by Zingai Feng was beyond the limit that an ordinary child could bear. However, since none of his disciples thought there was anything wrong, he had no choice but to give them a reminder to avoid causing irreversible consequences. Hearing the teacher's concerns, Zingai Feng chuckled and patted his chest to make a promise. Hey, teacher, don't worry. I was a little worried before, but then I adapted very well and didn't feel any discomfort. Hashirama nodded and didn't say anything else. It was enough for him to know the pros and cons. Okay, after the rest, let's start training. Hashirama waved his hand and said with great heroism. Zingai Feng's face fell completely. Teacher, my stomach hurts. Can I rest for a while? No. I know my limits. Stop pretending. Hurry up and run around the village 10 times. Hashirama showed no mercy, and Hoshino Kaede still wanted to struggle. Teacher, 20 laps. Hashirama's heartless words shattered Hoshino Kaede's hopeful mentality. I had no choice but to lower my head and start running around the village. Hashirama was in a very happy mood as he watched Kaede Hoshino sweating profusely. I think you're still a little too kind. A man with a paralyzed face walked out from the side, looked at his arrangements, and couldn't help but frown without even turning his head. Hashirama said, Tobirama, that child has his own opinions. I don't want to be too involved. He knows what he should do, or what he must do. Tobirama crossed his arms and turned his head away, not commenting or refuting. The two stood side by side, letting time pass by little by little. It was already noon, and Feng Zingai's physical strength had long been drained. Sweat dripped down his trouser legs to the ground, forming puddles of water stains. There were still 10 laps to go. He took sore steps, moving forward bit by bit, as if there were 1,000 pounds weighing on his feet. Every step you take will seem like 1,000 difficulties and dangers to overcome. The air seemed extremely precious at this moment. Zingai Feng's chest heaved violently, and he took big breaths greedily. His lungs felt like they were on fire, and the burning pain made every breath he took seem extremely difficult. The weight on my body seemed to become heavier and my consciousness gradually became blurred. 1 step, 2 steps, dragging his heavy and exhausted body, he moved forward step by step with a thud. Feng Xingai's body could no longer support itself and the protection mechanism was automatically triggered. His eyes went dark and he fell to the ground. Hashirama's attention was always on him, and the next moment after he fell, he was beside him in an instant, looking at Xingai Feng's red face and beads of sweat rolling down his forehead. I felt very distressed. Hashirama condensed green chakra in his hands and placed it on Hoshino Kaede's body. A warm current instantly filled his whole body, causing the sleeping Hoshino Kaede to hum unconsciously. Perseverance is commendable, but the brain just doesn't understand flexibility. Tobirama arrived a step late and commented on the unconscious little guy. Hashirama glared at him unhappily, then picked up the little guy and left. In an instant after he left, Tobirama lowered his head in deep thought, then spoke slowly. However, he is much stronger than my disciples, and has a promising future. Hoshino Kaede had no idea how highly Tobirama thought of him after he fell unconscious. Hashirama took him directly back to his residence. He also ordered his men to say hello to Xingai Feng's parents so that they would not worry. Then he asked his servants to prepare a secret medicinal bath. The Senshao clan is very wealthy, and they pour precious medicinal herbs into their buckets as if they were free. Hoshino Feng soaked in it, slowly absorbing the medicinal power. This soak lasts until evening. Ugh, this hurts. Hoshino Feng slowly opened his eyes, his brain still a little confused. As soon as he moved, he felt a sharp pain in his body, which made him grimace in pain. This is the smell of medicine. Where's the teacher? Xingai Feng sniffed and immediately smelled a strong scent of medicinal herbs. When he looked down, he found himself sitting in a wooden barrel, and he understood. I guess it was the teacher who did it after I fell unconscious. When I think of the feeling before I fell into coma, my scalp goes tingling just thinking about it. Is all ninja training so perverted? As long as you don't die from training, then train until you die. This is not a joke. Feng Hoshino sighed and feared in his heart. He had never thought that training would be so difficult. I can already foresee the painful times ahead. Just as he was wailing inwardly, the door was pushed open and Hashirama walked in with a tired look on his face. Well, you awake? How do you feel? Seeing Hoshino Kaede wake up, Hashirama asked. I just feel a little sore, but otherwise it's fine, Hoshino Kaede answered truthfully. It seems that the medicinal bath is effective. Hashirama supported his chin and glanced downward, feeling his gaze moving downward. Xingai Feng quickly lowered his body. Only his wet head was exposed. His face flushed as he spoke angrily. Teacher, what are you looking at? Ahoha, nothing. Hashirama touched his nose guiltily. I wondered in my heart, are kids nowadays so mature? The clothes are on the table after washing. I'm leaving now. If you have any questions in the future, come and find me. Your physical skills are too poor. You need to practice hard. After that, you have to run around the village every day. Don't slack off. Before leaving, Hashirama gave these instructions. Because of his bloodline limit, he can't teach much as a teacher. He can only figure it out himself. It seemed like it was the same when he awakened. Would release. Okay, teacher, you can go now. I'll remember that. Xingai Feng's eyes were wandering. He wrote it down hastily, then started to chase people away with a red face. Ha, come on, you're just a kid and you're so shy. Fine, I'm leaving then. Hashirama suppressed his laughter and tried to look again out of curiosity. But as expected, he saw nothing under the angry gaze of Kaede. Hoshino? Hashirama laughed dryly twice, then walked out of the house and closed the door gently. Chapter 12 Konoha and number 039, S first high-level meeting. 3 months have passed since the last coma. During this period, Feng Xingai was so busy that he was out of breath, and the intensity of his training reached an unprecedented level. Apart from the fixed 6 hours of sleep, the rest is all used for training ninjutsu in the morning, physical training in the afternoon, and swordsmanship in the evening. After a fulfilling day, Xingai Feng was extremely tired and fell asleep as soon as he went to bed. Although it was very tiring, the rewards were also great. These 3 months of high-intensity training have made my originally thin body much stronger. It is worth mentioning that when he went to the Hokage clan to get the ninja sword, Hokage Aishin often invited him to be a guest. After a few visits, their relationship improved a lot and they became more familiar with each other. When he practiced swordsmanship at night, Uncle Aishin would occasionally give him some pointers. At that time, Hoshino Kaede also suspected that Uncle Aishin had intentions towards him. After all, 3 months had passed and Konoha already knew that he was the Hokage's disciple. Once doubt takes root, it becomes more solid. However, Uncle Yizin has a keen eye and sees the doubts in his heart. Without any hesitation, he nodded in acknowledgement. I do have some selfish reasons for teaching you, but don't worry, the main reason is that I feel you and I are destined to be together, that's all. At that time, Hokage Aishin was very calm. This action made Xingai Feng calm down, and after a while, He finally let down his guard. Time flies. 3 months is neither long nor short. Hoshino Kaede has made qualitative improvements in all aspects and has become more adept at controlling time. It can be said that he now can beat up hundreds of himself. 3 months ago, putting aside bloodline limits, just relying on ninjutsu and taijutsu in terms of strength, he also improved from an elite Chunin to a Jonin. Except for Hashirama and Tobirama, no one else knew this. However, Zingai Feng had a premonition that his speed would not increase very quickly in the future. After all, he was old. In addition, the clock in my mind has also undergone some changes. The originally blurry dial became a little clearer. Reaching 1/6 chakra surged again, reaching the capacity of 1 card. P.S. 1 card is equal to 1 Kakashi, and his eyes were strengthened once again. Not only could they slow down and speed up movement, but they could also freeze a person in an instant, but only for a few seconds. It's a change that's neither big nor small. That afternoon, Kaede Hoshino was running around Konoha as usual. The weights on his body were also replaced with a new set of weights, allowing him to exercise his body in extreme conditions at any time. After running slowly for a lap, I was sweating slightly. I wiped the sweat from my forehead and continued to run forward. Suddenly, there was a slight movement behind him. Zingai Feng twisted his body and kicked out with full force, without holding back. The moment he turned around, Zingai Feng saw the face of the person who came, Tobirama-sama. He was startled and quickly retracted his strength. He suddenly lost his balance in midair and fell directly to the ground. After carefully feeling the whip kick just now, Tobirama felt some ripples in his heart. It's only been a short period of time, but his physical skills have improved so quickly. It's beyond common sense. Is the time bloodline limit really that powerful? Tobirama couldn't help but fall into deep thought, until Hoshino Kaede came forward and asked. Then he calmed down. Master Tobirama, what can I do for you? Tobirama coughed, likely to cover up his previous gaffe, and then his expression became serious. This made Zingai Feng feel that something might have happened, and he couldn't help but straighten his back and listen attentively. You've heard a lot about the ups and downs recently. Tobirama looked at him with a half smile, and that expression looked like he wanted to punch him. Zingai Feng tilted his head innocently and said with a confused look on his face, Master Tobirama, what are you talking about? Why can't I understand? I've been so busy these past 3 months that I don't have the time to listen to those rumors. Tobirama raised his eyebrows, seeming very surprised. Really? Then I've done nothing. Perhaps it was because of what Hoshino Kaede said that Tobirama stopped talking and then changed the subject. Come with me. There is a meeting that requires your participation. Zingai Feng was stunned. He didn't expect this to happen, so he asked another question. I don't think I need to be present at a meeting. I don't even have a ninja position. Well, don't underestimate yourself. Your current status is higher than that of some clan leaders. Tobirama looked at Hoshino Kaede meaningfully, with the corners of his mouth slightly raised. No, not really. Hoshino Kaede took a step back without leaving a trace, always feeling that Tobirama's words had a hidden meaning. Okay, stop talking nonsense and hurry up. Don't keep people waiting. Oh, by the way, this is for you. Tobirama waved his hand impatiently, grabbed him by the back of his collar, and was about to leave, but he suddenly paused. He pulled out a ninja forward protector from his pocket and handed it over. Zingai Feng took the forward protector, his eyes becoming even more confused. Just give it to me. I know your strength. There is no need to test you. No one else will say anything, Tobirama said nonchalantly, as if everything was reasonable. Hearing this, Hoshino Feng silently put away the forward protector. Seeing this, Tobirama activated Flying Thunder God and appeared directly outside the meeting room door. Flying Thunder God is indeed convenient, and it can be said to be a must-have ninjutsu at home or when traveling, Hoshino Kaede muttered in a tiny voice, but Tobirama pretended not to hear it. However, judging from the bulging veins on his forehead, he was probably very unhappy. Tobirama put him down and then went into the conference room, followed by Hoshino Kaede. As soon as he entered the door, he saw people sitting on both sides of the long table. From the moment he came in, countless eyes were focused on him. This made Hoshino Kaede feel very pressured, and she couldn't help swallowing, but she still followed Tobirama under the pressure. In the conference room, the patriarchs of each family were present, with the big families headed by the Senju and Uchiha sitting in the core position. The rest of the small families are located in marginal positions, and their strength and status are relatively low. The person sitting in the first seat was naturally the Hokage, and next to him was Uchiha Madara, who was still the head of the Uchiha clan at this time. Zio Feng, sit here. When Hashirama saw his disciple, he quickly waved his hand and pointed to the seat next to him. Hoshino Kaede felt as if she had been pardoned, and hurriedly trotted over to Hashirama's side and sat down. Seeing this, some faint whispers of discussion emerged in the meeting. Hoshino Kaede looked at Hashirama and found no reaction. To be honest, this position is a hot potato. Look at who's sitting with him. The first Hokage of Konoha, a recognized god in the ninja world on the left, is the Shura of the ninja realm, the current head of the Uchiha clan. Finally, there is Hashirama Senju standing behind Hashirama. He is the master of forbidden techniques of Konoha. In this luxurious lineup, a rookie suddenly sneaks in, which would surprise anyone even though he was a disciple of the Hokage. Everyone present was a veteran of many battles, and the lowest strength was a Jonin. The older generation hasn't died yet, and they are superior to him in terms of seniority and experience. Chapter 13, Trouble Within the Clan. But who is he? After only 3 months of systematic study, his strength has reached the level of a Jonin in terms of identity. He is a disciple of a Hokage, and the first Hokage, which is already extraordinary in terms of strength and talent. I am far ahead of these old guys from this perspective. He was being too cautious, and Xingai Feng's nervousness suddenly eased. Listening to the small family's whispered discussions nearby, Xingai Feng's face remained calm and unmoved. Hashirama said nothing and remained silent, as if he was waiting for something, and Tobirama behind him looked at a person at the main table with hidden hostility in his eyes. Feng Hoshino's heart moved. Tobirama's hostility was so clear, and he didn't hide it at all. It seems that he was called here for what might be an unpleasant meeting, as the atmosphere was already tense before the discussion even started. I looked at that person. He was quite old, and upon closer inspection, his strong vitality, he couldn't be from the Senju clan. Xingai Feng was secretly surprised. This trend was not right. How could it be the Senju clan? He thought in surprise and glanced at Hashirama with a hidden look. Hashirama, who was standing by, was aware of his disciple's little trick. He coughed lightly and then picked up the tea on the table to cover it up while drinking tea. He gave Hoshino Kaede a helpless look. Well, it looks like there is a disagreement within the teacher's clan. The corner of Xingai Feng's mouth twitched, and he complained inwardly, then suddenly felt helpless. This is like a person sitting at home and disaster strikes from the sky. No wonder Tobirama was so hostile. The Hokage's decision was actually questioned. It was probably the matter of accepting disciples that caused dissatisfaction among the Senju clan. After all, he is the god of the ninja world. If you become his disciple, the benefits are self-evident, not to mention that he is a member of your own family. The principle that good things should be kept in the family makes them feel that this is the way it should be. Unfortunately, Hashirama is not interested in family concepts, and even Tobirama is the same. Their strength was bound to make Kai and Xiao's plan fail, so the matter is very clear. They will pick on the weak and this disciple will suffer. Ahem, Lord Hokage, this must be your disciple. The person who was previously hostile to Tobirama broke the deathly silence and spoke first. The goal is clear as soon as you open your mouth. Haha, Elder Naoki is right. This is the disciple I accepted a few months ago. Hashirama continued naturally, but the depth in his eyes was like a bottomless pit being stared at by such a great god. Naoki felt pressured, but for the sake of his tribe, he had no choice but to bite the bullet and continue speaking. He is indeed a man of outstanding talent. Lord Hokage has a very good eye. Look, this is the art of speaking, with ups and downs, but please take a look at what I am saying. Hoshino Kaede roared inwardly. Hashirama said, thank you very much, this brat still needs time to grow up. Haha, Lord Hokage is too modest. As the god of the ninja world, it is natural that the disciples you accept are not bad. Naoki seemed not to hear the deeper meaning of Hashirama's words. He continued talking to himself and ignored the murderous gaze. The atmosphere was set just right. And what happened next was exactly as Hoshino Kaede had expected. Elder Naoki changed the subject and blatantly set his sights on Hoshino Kaede, but, as the tone of his voice continued to lengthen, Hashirama's face suddenly darkened and he clenched his fists. It's not easy to be a disciple of the Hokage. I think it's necessary to take a look at his strength. This is also for the future of Konoha. Lord Hokage, do you think what I said is right? Naoki spoke very quickly, and finished what he had prepared in his mind in just a few seconds, leaving no room for retreat at this moment. Tobirama's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot. Look, is this something a human can say? It has only been a few months since Big Brother accepted me as his disciple. Don't you know, how dare you say such a thing? Even Hashirama, who is always a good guy, couldn't help but look gloomy. It's not because he is afraid that Hoshino Kaede is not strong enough, but because Naoki is forcing her by doing this. Before he could say anything, Uchiha Madara on the side sneered and said, where's your face, old man? These words made everyone present look extremely surprised, and they all had incredible expressions on their faces. Aren't the Senju and Uchiha mortal enemies? Seeing everyone's eyes falling on him, Uchiha Madara sneered, and then a tremendous momentum rose. He pressed forward towards the crowd, instantly making them terrified. The murderous intent almost solidified into substance. Fortunately, Hashirama acted in time and blocked most of the momentum, and said, "Ben, calm down. We are in a meeting now. Don't release your aura all the time." It turns out that Hashirama was really indulgent towards Madara. He could even talk about such a thing so lightly. Tobirama, who has always been at odds with Madara, raised the corners of his mouth slightly. It was obvious that Madara's approach was to his liking. After calming Madara down, Hashirama then looked at Naoki. "Elder Naoki, do you want my disciple to compete with you?" Hearing this, Naoki was delighted, but he kept shaking his head and waving his hands. "I can't do such a shameful thing. It just so happens that my grandson is 10 years old, not too old, so he can be his opponent. Hokage-sama, what do you think? A shameless person is invincible in the world." It's unbelievable that he can say that. Even the other people on the field couldn't help but blush at this moment. "Zio Feng, what do you think?" Hashirama turned around and asked with a calm expression. Suddenly, everyone's attention was focused on Zhang Feng. This is a battle that must be won. Even if the age difference is twice that of the other, only the winner has the right words. For a moment, the patriarchs of all the major families couldn't help but reveal an expectant look. If he wins, it's only what he should do as a disciple of the Hokage. If we lose, it will be a difficult situation. We may never recover from it. How about it, little guy? It doesn't matter if you are timid. The identity of the Hokage's disciple is indeed very stressful. Naoki looked at Hoshino Kaede with a smile, and spoke in a seductive way. Seeing this, Zhang Feng nodded and agreed. He shrugged his shoulders slightly and said with an indifferent expression, "Okay, I don't care anyway. Since you want to embarrass yourself, I'll oblige you." Although he is small, his words are extremely sharp. Such confident words made Naoki frown, but then relaxed his brows. He is just a 5-year-old child. Even if he is the god of ninja world, how much strength can he improve in such a short time? Thinking of this, I felt relieved immediately. It's better to do it now than today. It can be considered as a performance before the meeting. Naoki was so happy that he couldn't help but smile. Seeing this, Hashirama gave Tobirama a look, and Tobirama understood and gestured to the window. Suddenly, a figure disappeared. "Then it will be in 2 hours at the training ground next to the Hokage building." Hashirama made the decision immediately, and everyone expressed their disagreement. There was still some time left in the competition, and the patriarchs of the major clans left their seats one after another, probably because they wanted to bring the younger generation of the family over to see the world. Looking at the sparsely populated conference room, Hashirama and Tobirama looked at each other and saw smiles in each other's eyes. Chapter 14 Exposed. A corner of talent. Soon, 2 hours passed and Naoki brought his grandson Hideki Senju to the training ground. The training ground was already overcrowded with people everywhere. Among them there are both old and new Hyuga Mori from the Hyuga clan, Nara Shikachi from the Nara clan, and the Yamanaka clan and the Akimachi clan. Even Uchiha Madara asked his clansmen to bring Uchiha Kitajima over. What was originally a matter between two kids suddenly changed into a gathering of the younger generation. Under normal circumstances, these little brats would definitely chirp non-stop, but this scene obviously frightened them. They shrank like quails and dared not make a single breath. It can be said that all of Konoha's top leaders are here, and they dare not be too presumptuous. They can make a fuss at ordinary times, but not now. Otherwise, the patriarch will not forgive them when they return. Hoshino Kaede followed Hashirama and took a closer look. "Well, they are all people I don't know, but they should be the fathers of people I will know in the future. You guys came pretty quickly." Hashirama walked over and said, his face showing no sign of joy or sadness, "In that case, let's hurry up and get started. We have a meeting to attend later." Hearing this, Elder Naoki raised his eyebrows, and a flash of doubt appeared in his eyes, but he still couldn't get an answer. The Nara clan, which has always been known for its wisdom, had a gleam in his eyes and an intriguing smile on his face, as did its clan leader Nara River. The Yamanaka clan and the Akimachi clan have been helping each other and trusting each other since the Warring States period. Seeing him like this, clan leader Yamanaka Kaisu couldn't help but ask curiously, "What's wrong?" The relationship between the three tribes is so good that they are indistinguishable from each other. Nara River did not hide too much and spoke meaningfully, "It might surprise us in a moment." This mysterious appearance aroused Kaiasuke Yamanaka's interest. Really? Could the result be unexpected? Kaiasuke looked at the two people in the field. At this time, Hideki Senju and Kaede Hoshino were standing on each side. Who knows? Just keep watching and don't drop your jaw in shock later, Nara River said vaguely, motioning to watch the two men fight. Upon hearing this, Nara River immediately turned his gaze to the two of them. "Are you the Hokage's disciple? You don't look that impressive, so don't cry later. Yingshu looked at the little devil in front of him and said contemptuously, as the grandson of the great elder, he was considered to be quite talented in the clan and had the strength of a chunin at the age of 10. If nothing unexpected happens in the future, I will definitely reach the level of a jonin. Are you going to fight or not? Why are you talking so much nonsense? Hoshino Kaede yawned out of boredom. Such a relaxed attitude made Senju Hideki feel that he was being looked down upon. I was immediately filled with anger. Children's emotions are like the weather at sea, changeable. Swish, swish, swish. 3 kunai were fired in succession, aiming at Kaede Hoshino's limbs at the same time. Yingshu rushed forward. He wanted to teach this arrogant kid a lesson. When Hoshino Kaede saw the kunai coming, he was not in a hurry. This speed is not bad for someone of his age, but for him, this is equivalent to turtle speed, like slow motion, and full of loopholes. Hoshino Kaede dodged sideways and easily avoided 2 kunai. Then he quickly stretched out his right hand in midair and grabbed the 3rd kunai. All this seems to take a long time, but in fact it is completed in a flash. Danzo, look, our little apprentice brother is quite capable. He's so young, but he can dodge it perfectly. He's better than us when we were kids. There were 6 disciples following behind Tobirama, one of whom was a young man with black hair and a smiling face. Danzo's eyes revealed helplessness, and he said, the disciple of Hokage-sama will naturally not be too weak, but he is still too young. I think he may not be able to hold on for long. Yutang Kaharu also joined the discussion at this time. Midman Yen asked the teacher, Teacher, can my junior brother win? Midman Yen's words attracted the attention of the other 5 people. Tobirama curled his lips, crossed his arms, and said, I'm afraid that boy named Yingshu will leave a shadow. The 6 people were stunned. Is it so serious? Watch carefully. You will be under pressure in the future, Tobirama said meaningfully, which startled them. After spending so much time together, they already know their teacher very well. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but widen their eyes and continue to watch curiously. Seeing that the kunai was easily dodged, Yingshu was not discouraged. He came in front of Hoshino Kaede and punched him. The corner of Zingai Feng's mouth curled up. He blocked the fist with his left hand, grabbed the clothes on his chest with his right hand, and pulled it back. Suddenly a huge force caused Senju Hideki to fall forward. Suddenly Hoshino Feng took the opportunity to stab down with the kunai he had just grasped, but the kunai pierced his skin, and Yingshu disappeared instantly. Zingai Feng raised his eyebrows and looked towards the field. The clone technique? It seems that it is not that easy to win. We need to show some strength. Hoshino Kaede looked back and forth in his place, muttering to himself outside the court. Naoki couldn't help but smile when he saw his grandson's performance. At the same time, he couldn't help but imagine the scene where his grandson was noticed by the Hokage after winning. Hokage disciple, little guy, you can't control yourself. I'm doing this for your own good. Naoki stroked his beard with an expression that was for his own good. Just when Naoki was sure of victory, Uchiha Madara said something to the same effect as Tobirama. Humph, all fancy talk is just a last-ditch effort. Uchiha Madara narrowed his eyes and immediately understood the situation, then looked at Uchiha Kitajima beside him. Remember one thing. All conspiracies and tricks are meaningless in the face of absolute strength. Uchiha Kitajima was stunned when he heard this, wondering why the head of his family said that. Judging from the current situation, it should be a balance, and there is no crushing strength. Seeing the confused look on his face, Uchiha Madara stopped talking, snorted coldly, and continued watching the game without saying anything. In his opinion, if one still needs guidance on such a simple thing, then one's achievements will not be very high. Seeing this, Uchiha Kitajima felt helpless and had to concentrate and not miss any details. Zingai Feng stood there for a few minutes, still without any movement, and was speechless. From the corner of his eye, he saw Naoki's uncontrollable smile, and a plan came to his mind. Since you are playing tactics with me, I will use some real moves. Which is also a sign of respect for you. Zingai Feng's words made everyone present frown, not knowing what he was really talking about. Only Hashirama, Tobirama and Uchiha Madara's eyes moved slightly, and the rest of the people began to speculate. I saw that Zingai Feng's eyes slowly changed, and the blue pupils instantly covered a black. A strange wave emanated in all directions. This change caused everyone to exclaim in surprise. This is bloodline limit. Yes, it's a bloodline limit. It's a Taijutsu type. I didn't expect that after the Sharingan and the Byakugan, Konoha would have another eye-level Jutsu-type bloodline limit. In an instant, there was a continuous stream of discussions, which instantly intensified the originally dull battle. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15, Crush. Taking advantage of the topic. Among them, the Uchiha and Hyuga clans reacted the most. The Hyuga family head's eyes flickered repeatedly, and his brows were like twists of knots, but then they relaxed again. Uchiha Madara didn't react much, but Uchiha Kitajima was so shocked that he jumped up and down. The young man didn't know how to restrain himself, and his fingers kept shaking. Clan leader, another eye technique bloodline limit. Uchiha Madara looked at him indifferently and said nothing. This reaction made Uchiha Kitajima stunned for several seconds, and then he stopped talking in disappointment. But I was muttering to myself in my heart, what on earth is the clan leader thinking? He can remain calm in the face of such an emergency. After the Eye of Time was opened, Kid Hoshino's perception ability was instantly magnified hundreds of times. Every move around him could not escape his observation. After looking around, his gaze finally fell on the ground, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Found it. After saying this softly, he silently stretched out his hand, palm facing outwards, and spun it in a circle, followed by a sudden burst of blue light. Everyone's eyes widened immediately, and the discussions disappeared in an instant. With complete silence, "Stop," Zingai Feng uttered the word calmly, then formed seals with his hands. After a few seconds, his figure merged into the ground earth escape, diving in the earth. This is the ninjutsu that Hideki Senju integrated into the underground for use. Kid Hoshino also knows it and uses it better than him. After a while, the ground surged, and then two figures broke out of the ground and landed steadily. Hoshino Kid put Yingshu on the ground, and then walked to Hashirama as if nothing had happened, breathing heavily and looking listless. If it were before, someone would definitely talk about him, but now no one can make a sound because they are still in shock. Yingshu was like a piece of wood, motionless, with a smug smile on his face, which looked extremely weird. But everyone is not a fool, especially the clan leaders, who have seen a lot. After being speechless for a short time, Kaisuke Yamanaka exclaimed with surprise and doubt, This is space-time bloodline limit." There was a hint of disbelief in his voice, and he felt it was a little ridiculous because the ninja world has never heard of space-time bloodline limit. Hearing Kaisuke's words, everyone gasped. Even Naoki, who had been very critical before, was stunned. Impossible. How is this possible? Naoki's brain froze, but he still said he didn't believe it. Time and space. I wonder how it compares to my Sharingan. Uchiha Madara's face was solemn, with a hint of fighting spirit. After all, the three words time and space are well known and everyone knows them, let alone anything else. Just a flying thunder god technique created by Tobirama can explain everything. But he had also said in person that the flying thunder god technique only touched the surface of space, let alone time. All the clan leaders are like this, not to mention the children. The ones who suffered the most were the Uchiha and Hyuga. Uchiha Kitajima is better off. After all, Uchiha Madara is here, so he can withstand more. But Hinata Shang's face became much uglier. Because one's own family knows one's own business. The Byakugan's ability is good for reconnaissance, but it pales in comparison to time and space. Well done. Hashirama gave a thumbs up to Hoshino Kaede and couldn't stop smiling. God knows how bad his mood was after his elder proposed the duel. Now that Zingai Feng had crushed his opponent in public, he breathed a sigh of relief to feel his depressed mood in one word: cool. What am I doing? You? Why are you over there? Hoshino Kaede could only stay still for a few seconds, and after he left, Yingshu returned to normal. He remembered that he was waiting for an opportunity underground, and just as he was getting close to Zingai Feng, he felt as if the world was disconnected. Then the scene suddenly changed, and he saw himself on the ground. As for how it came about, I have no idea. Faced with a Yingshu's shock, Hoshino Feng was too lazy to explain. When Naoki saw that his grandson was confused, he looked at Hoshino Kaede with a serious look, then sighed heavily and went forward to bring Yingshu back. After the explanation, Yingshu's eyes revealed a deep fear, which was the fear of the unknown and the fear of strength. Elder Naoki, Yingshu's strength is indeed extraordinary. It is commendable that he can have such strength at such a young age. Hashirama spoke exaggeratedly, but Elder Naoki found the sentence very uncomfortable. No matter how extraordinary you are, can you be as extraordinary as your disciple? As if his heart was dead, Naoki's face dimmed, and he lowered his head and said, Hokage-sama has a good vision, and it is I who have offended you. Haha, if that's the case, let's end this competition here. Hashirama's eyes flickered, and then he looked at the clan leaders with a smile on his face. Don't forget, the important things haven't started yet. Upon hearing Hashirama's words, The clan leaders all looked serious and the atmosphere changed again upon seeing this. Hashirama left first, followed closely by the other clan leaders, leaving the youngsters there looking at each other in bewilderment for a moment. The scene was extremely awkward, and Xingai Feng looked at the little ghosts in front of him with interest. He completely ignored the fact that he was the youngest. Oh, this is Nara Shikoku's father. They look exactly like him. That can't be Uchiha Fugaku's father. He has a stern face and looks very serious. There are also Hinata, Yamanaka, Akimichi, Sarutobi. Hey, all the famous families in Konoha are here. Feng Xingai glanced at the little ghosts and commented on them one by one at the same time. The atmosphere in the Konoha meeting room was solemn after seeing such a powerful bloodline limit. They were deeply excited. Everyone present was an old fox, and everyone could see that this was clearly a deterrent since it is difficult for the Hokage to do it. He can use his disciples to do it. It is perfect. After looking around, Hashirama cleared his throat and said, "Now let's get down to business." Konoha has been established for 5 years, but now the various organizations are in a state of chaos, with responsibilities and powers intertwined, which is very troublesome. I've heard that there are often conflicts among families, to the point of physical violence. It is true that Hashirama has a gentle and amiable character, but he never lacks means when dealing with Konoha. If anyone oversteps the line and disrupts the stability of Konoha, don't blame him for being ruthless. The words revealed dissatisfaction with him, and some families are implicitly mentioned. Interestingly, these are all small and medium-sized families. There is not a single large family. Elder Naoki, don't you think this is the truth? At this point, Hashirama changed the subject and started talking about Elder Naoki again. Yes. Looking directly into Hashirama's oppressive eyes, Naoki suddenly began to sweat on his forehead and shouted repeatedly. He knew that Hashirama was using him as a shield. After all, he had forced him so hard before, so he had to get something back. Seeing Naoki being so tactful, Hashirama raised the corners of his mouth, and then looked at the rest of the families. The majesty of the god of the ninja world was fully demonstrated at this moment, causing them to feel a sudden increase in pressure. Chapter 16, Konoha and number 039, S reshuffle. If you have any opinions, please feel free to raise them. Hashirama crossed his arms, leaned forward, and said with a smile, but the response to him was silence. In that case, please take a look at the documents in front of you. I am very satisfied. The document in front of him was the most reasonable arrangement that Hashirama had come up with. After much thought, the clan leaders exchanged glances with each other and then silently picked up the document and began to read. Tobirama lowered his eyes, so his expression couldn't be seen clearly, but the corners of his mouth were curved, and he seemed very happy. The only sound in the room was the turning of pages, which lasted for half an hour. After seeing them finish reading the documents, Hashirama raised his eyebrows and then spoke. Does anyone have any objections? If you have any, please raise them and we will find a way to resolve them. The corners of everyone's mouth twitched, and they were secretly complaining in their hearts. There is no room for bargaining here. The results are all based on this. Seeing everyone in silence, Hashirama smiled lightly, said nothing, and waited quietly. Soon another half hour passed and the warm tea had turned cold. Narakayasuke looked around and felt Hashirama's gaze on him. He sighed helplessly and said, Hokage-sama's arrangement is very reasonable. My Nara clan has no objection. This statement triggered a chain reaction, and some families also responded. Among them, the Yamanaka and Akimichi clans are the leaders, but this is normal. After all, the Aino, Deer, and Jo clans advance and retreat together, and the Nara clan has always been like a think tank. The Mountain clan has no objection. The Akimichi clan has no objection. The Nara clan leader nodded in agreement first, which made Hashirama feel a little favorable towards him. With a leader, the rest will be easy. What do the other families think? The momentum is like a raging fire, burning fiercely, and not even the breeze can shake it in the slightest. Seeing this, the other families responded and agreed unanimously. Hashirama's smile grew even wider, and he then looked at Tobirama behind him, indicating that it was his turn to take the stage as long as the initial problem is solved. The rest will be much easier. Tobirama appeared, and then according to the characteristics of each family, he defined the responsibilities and demarcated the clan territories. The reasonable distribution among the families left them speechless, and they could only nod silently. Several departments were established in Konoha village. The Uchiha are responsible for order and security within the village. This enormous power was given to the Uchiha, which aroused the envy of other families. This means that they will be nominally managed by the Uchiha in the future, so the power is quite great. When Uchiha Madara heard that Tobirama gave such an important department to Uchiha, A hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Tobirama has always been at odds with the Uchiha people and has caused trouble for them more than once. This time he was so abnormal. It was really wrong, but I couldn't think of anything wrong with it, so I had to give up. The remaining departments were appointed one by one. When he had almost finished speaking, Tobirama stopped, took a step back, and gave the right to speak back to Hashirama. If you have nothing else to do, that's all for today. After hearing what Hashirama said, everyone stood up and left. While thinking about the future of the family, today's division of responsibilities can be said to have disrupted Konoha's newly stabilized structure. Once again, some matters needed to be replanned, so we left in such a hurry. After everyone had left, Hashirama finally relaxed his tense heart and leaned back. I'm finally done. Tobirama, you just said too much. Humph, big brother, this is just the beginning. We will definitely have to optimize it again in the future. Upon hearing this, Hashirama's eyes widened, and then he looked like he had lost all hope in life. He lay listlessly on the table and sighed in resentment. Tobirama, I think you are more suitable to be Hokage than me. How about you give it a try, brother? This is not a ninja game for children. Tobirama interrupted Hashirama's evasive remarks in a harsh voice, looking as if he was disappointed with his friend, but Hashirama seemed not to hear his anger and continued talking to himself. I want to stay at home. I really want to be with Mito. Hashirama kept mumbling, and the complaining and lazy tone in his voice made Tobirama frown. Brother, Konoha can't do without you now. Upon hearing this, Hashirama fell silent, his eyes dodging an uncertain Tobirama sighed. He knew that his elder brother was not suitable to be Hokage in some ways, but now only the eldest brother can calm down those people with ulterior motives to a large extent. Those people before were afraid of the big brother's strength in this regard. Even 10 of them cannot compare to him. Looking at Hashirama's complaining and decadent look, Tobirama suddenly felt tired and had to say, hold on for a few more years. And it will be fine in a few years. Upon hearing this, Hashirama's eyes lit up, his whole body was shocked, and his eyes flashed with anticipation. Really? Tobirama, you really are my savior? Tobirama looked helpless. I'm just talking, it may not work. Hey, as long as there's hope, it's settled. I'm going to find Xiao Feng. After saying that, he ran out without anyone noticing. Tobirama shook his head. Seeing his elder brother so resistant to the position of Hokage, he always felt that something was wrong. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. On the other hand, Zengai Feng originally thought that he had nothing to do, so he wanted to go back and continue practicing, but after taking a few steps, he heard someone calling him from behind. Xiao Feng. Sarutobi Hiruzen rushed forward excitedly to greet her, and the people behind him became much more restrained. Do I know you? Zengai Feng tilted his head in confusion. Oh, I almost forgot. My name is Sarutobi Hiruzen, and I am Master Tobirama's disciple. Sarutobi Hiruzen. Hoshino Kaede's pupils suddenly dilated, as if he had seen some rare animal. What's wrong? Is there something wrong with my name? Seeing Hoshino Kaede's reaction, Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't help but touch his face and said in confusion, Ahem, no. Hoshino Feng waved his hands, feeling ashamed inside. Such a handsome man could actually be Sarutobi Hiruzen, the future Sandaime Hokage. In that case, the following few people should be the famous Konoha F40, Akimichita Rikyu and Uchiha Kagami don't count. It's a pity for them. One died on the night of the nine-tailed fox, and the cause of death of the other is not even clear. Is there something wrong, Sarutobi-san? Upon hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen turned around and waved to the other people, signaling them to come over. Haha. Just call me Hiruzen, you are the Hokage's disciple, there is no need to be so distant. Seeing this, Zengai Feng also shouted along with him, come here, let me introduce you. This is Danzo, from the Shimura clan. That one over there is Uchiha Kagami. Even though his last name is Uchiha, he has a very gentle personality, very easy to get along with. There are also Akimichi Tofu, Yutang Kaharu, and Mito Kato-en. They are all disciples accepted by Master Tobirama. Sarutobi Hiruzen was like a tour guide, introducing Kaede Hoshino one by one without any shyness at all. Zengai Feng looked at the people who would become famous in the future and greeted them politely. There is no different treatment based on what happens later. After all, people should live in the present. Chapter 17. Going to school? Xiao Feng, your performance just now was amazing. It stunned those people. You may not have noticed that their expressions are very interesting and beautiful. Sarutobi Hiruzen's mouth was like a machine gun. He kept talking. Danzo, who had the best relationship with him, suddenly felt embarrassed and pulled him aside and whispered, can you please not be so excited? It's not you. Unfortunately, his words did not have any effect at all. Seeing this, Danzo turned his head away, Thinking to himself that he would not be bothered seeing that Hiruzen was still unsatisfied, Hoshino Kaede interrupted him hastily and quickly changed the subject. "Brother Hiruzen, how about I treat you guys to a meal?" Sarutobi Hiruzen was stunned when he heard this, then he reacted and hit the palm of his right hand hard with his left hand, and said suddenly, "Yeah, why didn't I think of treating everyone to a meal?" At this time, Danzo interrupted and made a comment to insult him. "It's normal that your brain can't figure it out." Danzo immediately received a roll of the eyes, and Hiruzen then waved his hand and said with great passion, "Okay, I'll treat you today. Let's celebrate for my junior brother. Let's go." Seeing this, Hoshino Kaede didn't want to interrupt his good intentions, so he had to be pulled away by Hiruzen. The others looked at each other, shrugged helplessly, and had to follow. We came to a barbecue restaurant and a group of 7 people sat together. Uchiha Jing watched Danzo write 10 lines at a glance like a god. After hesitating for a while, he whispered to Danzo, "Order less, I'm afraid of Hiruzen." Unexpectedly, Hiruzen heard this and said with dissatisfaction, "Jing, don't worry. I'm not easily defeated. Yes, I know Hiruzen very well. Don't worry, I have calculated it." A smirk appeared on Danzo's face. "I had a bad feeling when I saw Uchiha Jing, but since Hiruzen said so, he had no choice but to keep quiet," but his eyes were still glancing at the prices on the menu after ordering. Danzo nodded in satisfaction. Half an hour later, the table was filled with plates full of meat. Although Hoshino Kaede didn't know the price, he knew that meat was very expensive nowadays. After a quick glance, "I guess Brother Hiruzen will probably stay to wash the dishes today." Danzo, how much did you order?" Kahoru looked at Danzo. Hoping to get an answer, Danzo raised the corner of his mouth and couldn't help but chuckled as he looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen, petrified on the spot. "Not much? I guess he spent all the money Hiruzen saved these days." Hearing this, the others couldn't help but fall silent, and then they all had a look of pity on their faces. Tacitly, "Hiruzen, let me help you share some of the burden." The gentle Uchiha Jing couldn't bear it, and then suggested. Danzo did not stop him because he knew that Hiruzen was a competitive person and would never accept Jing's kindness as expected. When Sarutobi Hiruzen heard that he had to share the burden, the competitive nature in his blood suddenly rose. He immediately refused decisively and pretended to be relaxed. "No, Jing, that's all. It's nothing to me." After saying this, Hiruzen still felt unconvincing and went straight to pay the bill. "You guys, I really don't know what to say." Mizuto Menayan finally understood what was going on and shook his head helplessly. Danzo chuckled. The meaning was self-evident looking at the way the few people got along with each other. Feng Xingai fell into deep thought as he failed to keep up with the times. Just as he was thinking, Hiruzen came back with a calm expression on his face. "Well," Hoshino Kaede still saw a hint of heartache on his face. Seeing that the real host had returned, the group began to feast on the food. Since Xingai Feng was the youngest, everyone gave in to him. Anyway, after eating, Xingai Feng felt like his stomach was about to burst. "Well, I still enjoyed the meal here. Thank you, Hiruzen." After eating and drinking, Danzo thanked him, but all he got was a glare from Hiruzen. No matter how slow he was, he still reacted. "But now that things have come to this, I have no choice but to cut the losses." "Hey, Zio Feng, so you are here?" Just as a few people were playing around, a hearty voice came from outside the door. Everyone looked over and stood up. "Teacher, this is Xingai Feng." "Hello, Lord Hokage." This was what Hiruzen and his friends shouted. Hashirama walked over, saw the mess on their table, and couldn't help but burst out laughing. "Haha, you guys, have you not eaten for a few days?" Hashirama's teasing made several people blush and look away, seeing that the atmosphere was so awkward. Xingai Feng hurriedly tried to make amends and changed the subject. "Teacher, is the meeting over?" "Well, everything is done. All that's left is the execution, which will probably take a few days." After hearing this, everyone had different expressions. Midamanan and Kahoru didn't feel anything after hearing this. Both of them were born into commoner families, and power had nothing to do with them. Although the remaining Uchiha Kagami has a family, he does not have a strong sense of family and has a happy look on his face. Since Lord Hokage said so, it means the family agrees. Recently, Uchiha Jing often heard radical remarks within the clan, which made him extremely worried, fearing that something might go wrong. But fortunately, after hearing what the Hokage said, I felt relieved. After hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo's expressions were exactly the same as Uchiha Kagami's. This made Xingai Feng, who had been observing, think deeply. It seems that the current Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo are not the same people they will be in the future. They both care about the village in their hearts, But it is also true that in the early days the two of them worked hard and ran around for the village. Coupled with the teachings of Lord Tobirama, the concept of family is gradually weakening. So it is not surprising that he has such an expression. Hashirama saw all these expressions and felt very relieved. He established Konoha village so that his descendants would be able to live and work in peace and contentment without being affected by war. Now, he has taken the first step and believes that things will get better in the future. Today's meeting is the first step. That's right. Hashirama suddenly thought of something and smiled at Hoshino Kaede. Seeing Hashirama like this, Hoshino Kaede couldn't help but have a bad feeling. It's been 3 months, and you're already a Jonin. But after thinking about it, I still think you should go to Konoha Academy. It's better to be with people of the same age than with us. Hashirama's words were like a bolt from the blue. The shocked Hoshino Kaede's eyes were dazed, and it took him a long time to come back to his senses. He protested vehemently, but the arm cannot twist the thigh. Hashirama knew that he had his own opinions. But there was no room for negotiation on this matter. He had wanted to say this for a long time, but due to his busy official duties, he had put it off until now. It's settled then. We'll go tomorrow. I've already made the arrangements. Once Hashirama makes the final decision, it cannot be changed. Zingai Feng immediately sighed and complained, as if going to school was like being tortured. Ahem, Zio Feng, the academy isn't that scary. We all came from there. Yes. The school is quite interesting and you can learn something from it. Sarutobi Hirozen and Uchiha Kagami were talking to each other, trying to change the impression of the school from Kaede Hoshino's mind. Chapter 18 Konoha Academy. But it still failed to restore the light in Zingai Feng's eyes, and it was still dead silent. Hashirama couldn't bear it anymore. His mouth twitched, then he slapped him on the head to wake him up. If you have any opinions, please raise them. Don't be so half-dead here. Zingai Feng's eyes gradually lit up, so he raised his head and asked, can you not go? No. Hashirama refused cruelly and decisively. Zingai Feng gave up and accepted his fate. Seeing this, Hashirama spoke earnestly. A school defeated you? You are my disciple, Hashirama Senju. Are you that scared? He tried to use a bowl of chicken soup to awaken the dead ocean in Kaede Hoshino's heart. Zingai Feng sighed heavily and said resignedly, forget it. It's my fault that I'm not as skilled as others and can't beat the teacher. Hashirama laughed, patted his shoulder, and said with a smug expression, face the reality, young man, I'm leaving first. Remember not to be late tomorrow. After saying this, Hashirama left in a hurry. Zingai Feng no longer had the heart to stay, so he gave apologetic smiles to the few people and then left. Hirozen and his companions were left with a gloating smile on their faces. After letting myself indulge myself for the last day, the next day finally came. Arriving at the gate of Konoha Academy, Hoshino Kaede seemed to be thinking about something. This should be the predecessor of the ninja school. No wonder it is so simple. Konoha Academy is the place where the heirs of the ninja clan study together. It was established together with Konoha Hospital. When Konoha was first established, the original intention is to learn and communicate with each other, so that we can feel less unfamiliar with each other and form a bond. Just as Zingai Feng stopped moving, a puzzled voice came from behind him. Are you Lord Hoshino? After hearing this, Zingai Feng turned around. What came into view was a black-haired boy with a hint of timidity and curiosity in his eyes. I am. Faced with such respectful words, Zingai Feng seemed a little embarrassed. He has never been called sir by anyone unexpectedly. It was realized here Hoshino Kaede's response made the boy visibly excited. Some answered incoherently. My name is Todo Takatora. Please give me your guidance. He divided the sentence into several parts. Zingai Feng listened patiently and then spoke naturally. Hello, my name is Zingai Feng, and I'm not worthy of being called an adult yet. Although being called Lord Hoshino sounded nice, he didn't dare to enjoy it. Those who can be called adults must have made outstanding contributions to Konoha in some way. He now can hardly be called an adult. Can I call you Gaohu? Zingai Feng continued to ask. It seemed like Fujito Takatora's CPU was smoking. It took him a long time to come back to his senses, and he spoke in a dull voice. Yes, it's okay. Then he asked again cautiously, can I call you Zio Feng? Zingai Feng said generously, of course, my friends and family call me that. Fujito Takatora's eyes suddenly lit up, and he spoke with anticipation in his tone. Am I also a friend? In response, Zingai Feng chuckled, hooked his neck, patted his chest and made an assurance. Of course, you're the first person I met when I enrolled. Don't you want to be my friend? Fujito Takatora took the joke seriously and immediately became anxious. No, I just... Before he could finish his words, Zingai Feng patted him on the back and guided him. Don't be anxious, relax. And let the anxious mentality go out of your heart. After some consolation, Fujito Takatora gradually calmed down and his speech was no longer so intermittent. That's right. Why are you nervous? Zingai Feng nodded and said with satisfaction. Fujito Takatora smiled shyly. His face flushed, and he was very shy. By the way, do you know where the classroom is? This is my first time here and I don't know the way, Zingai Feng said a little embarrassedly. Oh no, we're going to be late. Fujito Takatora suddenly reacted. He pulled Zingai Feng and ran towards the classroom in a hurry. That speed actually made Zingai Feng feel like he was being pushed on the back. It was so terrifying. No wonder people say that a person's peak period is during his student years. This is true. Running all the way, Fujito Takatora and Hoshino Kaede tried their best to catch up, and finally managed to catch up. At this time, the classroom was already full of people, about dozens of them. Zingai Feng looked around and saw people from all families. Fujito Takatora and Hoshino Kaede sat in the last row. Hoshino Kaede was very satisfied with this, as it was a good position to slack off. By the way, Gaohu, how did you get into study here? Zingai Feng looked at the people from the major families with flickering eyes. There are no ninja schools now, so it is basically difficult for civilians to become ninjas. On the one hand, there was no one to teach, and on the other hand, ninjutsu was scarce and most of them were firmly controlled by the ninja clan. The fact that a commoner like Fujito Takatora could be admitted to the school puzzled Hoshino Kaede. Tao Takatora explained, originally it was impossible, but in recent years, the Hokage has overcome all objections and allowed commoners to enroll. It just so happened that I had good talent, so I was chosen. Hoshino Kaede suddenly realized that this was the case. If that was the case, it meant that the establishment of the ninja school was not far away. The teacher allowed commoners to enroll in the school to send a signal to the outside world so that the family could have some buffer time. This is an open conspiracy, allowing family members and civilians to compete with each other to serve as a balance. Unfortunately, the ninjas could only watch themselves being trapped and could not even think of resisting. After all, the situation is no longer like that of the Warring States period, and the one country, one village system has gradually taken root in people's hearts. If we move out of Konoha now, it will mean putting our family in danger. With wolves surrounding us at any moment. Hashirama grasped this point and acted in this way. While he was thinking, he heard the sound of faint footsteps outside the door. Naturally, this noise could not be hidden from Zingai Feng. The next second, the noise in the school suddenly disappeared. A middle-aged man appeared at the door, and as soon as he entered, the children were terrified. Fujito Takatora couldn't help but shrink his neck, as if he wanted to bury himself. Hoshino Feng looked around and then asked in a low voice, "What's wrong? He seems scary, aren't you afraid?" The scars on Mr. Aizawa's face make him look like a demon. When Zingai Feng heard this, he looked over. He looked closely at the middle-aged man's face and found a long scar on his left cheek. The scar extended from the forehead to the chin. It was dark red and looked very hideous. This look can really stop a child from crying, Hoshino Kaede muttered to himself. Suddenly, Mr. Aizawa's eyes were like sharp blades, locking onto Kaede. Hoshino, the corner of his mouth curled up, revealing an extremely terrifying smile, and the scar on his face moved, making it even more creepy. Then he shouted in a sonorous and powerful voice, "Hoshino Kaede, here." Hoshino Feng stood up subconsciously. Only then did he react and his eyes twitched. Chapter 19. Big Sister? School Battle. Seeing Hoshino Kaede's reaction, Teacher Aizawa nodded with satisfaction. "Very good, please introduce yourself." After hearing this, Zingai Feng was stunned for a moment, then said, "My name is Zingai Feng, I'm 5 years old, I like food, and I don't dislike anything. My dream is to protect Konoha." Teacher Aizawa nodded slightly, and from his expression, it seemed that he was very satisfied. "It's a nice dream. Hoshino Kaede is the disciple of a Hokage, but here, he is the same as all of you." Teacher Aizawa did not give him any preferential treatment because of his identity, which made Hoshino Kaede feel good about him. Not everyone in the ninja world likes to curry favor with powerful people. After the introduction, Mr. Aizawa started today's class, and the little kids listened attentively. Hoshino Feng looked at the students in the classroom curiously, and they were indeed very serious. Even if they didn't want to learn, they tried their best to pretend to be listening carefully. The class passed quickly. Aizawa glanced at the clock, said "Get out of class is over," and left. After he walked away, everyone in the classroom breathed a sigh of relief and then regained their energy. The chattering sound suddenly filled the classroom. Zingai Feng supported his head with one hand and looked out the window in a daze. Fujito Takatora poked his clothes, and Hoshino Kaede turned his head, looking stunned. In addition to Fujito Takatora, there was also a girl in front of him. "You are." The little girl was obviously very lively and courageous. She said with her hands on her hips, "My name is Aizawa Ikumi, and I'm the big sister in the class." You have to call me that from now on, did you hear me? Otherwise, humph. Aizo Akumi waved her fist threateningly. Hoshino Fen was a little amused and confused. Was he being bullied at school? It felt a bit strange to be bullied by a little girl. What are you doing? Do you have any objection? Seeing that he didn't respond, Aizo Akumi thought he disagreed and immediately slammed the table. Hoshino Kaede still didn't respond and looked away. I saw many boys lowering their heads, with fear in their eyes. Zingai Feng even saw the figures of some big families, which made him feel deeply moved. It seems that strength is respected here, but he likes it very much. His eyes fell on her again and he smiled slightly. I have an opinion. If you beat me, I will listen to you. Upon hearing this, Aizo Akumi frowned, and after some deep thought, she spoke with a serious expression. Yes, but you can't use your bloodline limit. Everyone in Konoha knows about Kaede Hoshino's bloodline limit, and everyone knows how powerful it is. Aizo Akumi knew very well that if she could use her bloodline limit, her chance of winning would be almost zero for some unknown reason. Zingai Feng nodded and agreed. Then let's go to the playground outside. After saying that, Zingai Feng walked outside. Aizo Akumi was not willing to be outdone. She waved her hand and called the whole class together. A large group of people followed behind her. It was a scene like the big brother traveling with his younger brothers, and the momentum was deafening. This commotion could not be hidden from Aizo as a teacher, or he had already anticipated such a thing to happen. Standing on the playground early, Teacher, Aizo wants to compete with me. Hoshino Kaede saw the teacher and stepped forward to explain. Teacher Aizo nodded slightly. With no intention of stopping him, Aizo Akumi came to the playground with a large group of people. She was not surprised to see the teacher. Obviously, this was not the first time the two of them stood still, and Aizo Akumi had a look of confidence on her face, as if the balance of victory had already tilted. Most of the students in the class were her younger brothers, and they all cheered for her. But there are exceptions, and Hinata Kazumi is one of them. She was from the Hyuga branch family and had a white silk headband tied on her forehead to cover some curse marks. Unlike the others, she had a serious expression on her face, looking back and forth between the two of them, muttering to herself, Yuma has encountered a tough opponent. I have to say, her vision is extremely accurate. Even if Hoshino Kaede does not use her bloodline limit, she is able to cope with the situation relying solely on the ninjutsu she has learned by herself. Aizo Akumi took one step forward and one step back, ready to attack. On the other hand, Hoshino Kaede put his hands in his pockets, looking extremely casual. With many loopholes in his behavior, Aizo Akumi's eyes were solemn. She did not show any contempt. Even without the bloodline limit, she didn't think that Hoshino Kaede would be so easy to defeat. Suddenly, when the situation was at a stalemate, Aizo Akumi quickly stepped forward and struck out with a palm. Although he was small, his strength should not be underestimated. His soft fist made a whirring sound and attacked Zingai Feng with a slight sound of breaking through the air. Hoshino Kaede stepped back slightly with his right foot, lowered his body's center of gravity, and raised his left hand to block the incoming punch. He clenched his right fist and struck forward without mercy. Aizo Akumi turned around and dodged, using inertia to kick again. Zingai Feng put his hands in front of his chest and took it. The huge impact force made him retreat several meters, and his arms trembled slightly, which showed how great the force was. He looks skinny, but how can he be so strong? It's so violent. No wonder she is the boss in the class. Feng Zingai looked at his shaking hands and clicked his tongue inwardly. Humph, you actually dared to be distracted during a fight. You really look down on me. Aizo Akumi's face darkened, anger appeared in her eyes. She snorted coldly and formed seals with her hands. 2 streams of white smoke suddenly rose up, and when the smoke dissipated, 3 identical figures appeared. For these little kids of a few years old, being able to use ninjutsu is extremely rare. After all, he is young and his chakra is pitifully small. Of course, monsters like Kaede Hoshino don't count. Aizo Akumi is undoubtedly the best in the class, and this clone technique can show that 3 figures attacked together, and each move was as powerful as a violent storm. Even though he is still a child, his physical skills are incredibly good, beyond the level that is expected for his age. But it's true. The war has only been over for a few years, so it's normal to have high expectations for children. The people outside the venue were dazzled and had stars in their eyes. Aizo-san is so handsome. Come on, big sister. Defeat him. A group of little kids raised their hands and shouted loudly, cheering for her. However, a small number of people noticed a clue. Facing such a fierce attack, Zingai Feng was unusually calm. His defense was flawless. So it could be said that it was just a lot of noise. But little action. Uchiha Wang is an ordinary member of the Uchiha clan. He has no background in the clan, But he has good talent. I was chosen by the Hokage to study here in this school. He is the only one who can compete with Aizawa Akumi. However, he was arrogant, disliked the weak, had no idea of forming cliques, and had few friends in the school at this moment. He clenched his fists, water seemed to be dripping from his gloomy face, and his handsome little face was full of unwillingness. Those little devils couldn't see the situation clearly and thought that Aizawa Akumi had the upper hand, but the fact was just the opposite. Hoshino Kaede perfectly fended off all the attacks without showing any signs of fatigue. The result is predictable. In the end, Aizawa Akumi will be exhausted and the outcome is already determined. He knew his own limitations. Before he opened his Sharingan, he and Aizawa Akumi were evenly matched. He couldn't even beat Aizawa Akumi, let alone himself. Chapter 20. The team is formed. And things turned out to be exactly as he expected. Aizawa Akumi was panting and beads of sweat appeared on her little face. The fierce offensive also began to slow down gradually. Zangief curled up the corner of his mouth, seized the opportunity, and instantly came in front of her. Aizawa Akumi felt a sense of crisis and quickly took defensive measures. Unfortunately, it was too late. Boom! A powerful punch aimed at the weak spot knocked him to the ground. Aizawa Akumi felt the world spinning and her head was dizzy. Just as she was about to get up and continue fighting, she suddenly felt a chill on her neck and a kunai was pointed at her neck. Zangief smiled and said, "Sorry, you lost." The tone was so relaxed, and the difference in strength was obvious. Aizawa Akumi looked unwilling, but she could do nothing about it. Teacher Aizawa beside her announced the result. Hoshino Kaede wins. The two then made a seal of reconciliation. Aizawa Akumi lowered her head, wondering what she was thinking. Fujito Takatora ran over excitedly, admiration almost overflowing from his eyes. "Zio Feng, you are so awesome. You actually defeated the big sister." In response to his praise, Zangief smiled without saying anything, and then came up to her and said, "You are very good at taijutsu. You are unique at the moment, but your physical strength is too poor. I suggest you exercise." Hearing this, Aizawa Akumi raised her head, tears flashing in her eyes. Then she glared at him and turned away. Zangief felt a little puzzled. He had pointed out his shortcomings with good intentions, so why did he run away? He was confused and puzzled. In response to this, Fujito Takatora, who saw the whole process, twitched his mouth and held his forehead. "Boss, you were really bullying me just now." "Really?" Zangief thought about it carefully, but still didn't feel anything was wrong. Seeing this, Fujito Takatora was a little helpless. The boss was good in every way, except that he was a little slow in this aspect. Finally he just said one sentence, "Teacher Aizawa is the father of the big sister." Huh? Zangief suddenly remembered that they had the same last name, so Hoshino Kaede cautiously turned his gaze towards Teacher Aizawa as expected. What I saw was an extremely gloomy face and a look that was ready to devour anyone. The corner of Zangief's mouth twitched. "It seems that my future life will be difficult." He could already imagine that Mr. Aizawa would target him madly in the future. There is no doubt that a daughter slave will never reason with you. At this moment, the scene in front of him suddenly darkened. Zangief raised his head and then raised his eyebrows. An Uchiha? Uchiha Wang came in front of him, his eyes full of fighting spirit and his eyes seemed to be spitting fire. There was no wasted words, just straight to the point. "I want to fight you." Zangief held his forehead helplessly. He had just finished fighting when another one came. He decisively refused. "No." Uchiha frowned. "Why?" "I'm so tired and need to rest." Zangief lied without thinking. Upon hearing this, Uchiha Wang's brow was filled with disbelief and his eyes. It seemed that the impression of Hoshino Kaede in his mind was shattered. However, after receiving a clear rejection, Uchiha Wang did not persist. He left after leaving a word, "I will often fight you in the future, Hoshino." Feng blinked, and it took him a long time to react. Did this person take a fancy to him? Fujito Takatora explained for him at the right time. Uchiha Nozomi is extremely lonely in the class and has no friends. He likes fighting to improve himself. It is said that he wants to become a ninja quickly and then make money. Hoshino Fen touched his chin and said, "Making money? Does he need money? Uchiha should have plenty of it." Fujito Takatora scratched his head and said, "I don't know that. It seems that he is a man with a story." Very interesting. Zangief became interested and thought that he could get to know this person better. Of course, this glorious task naturally fell on Fujito Takatora, but the problem is that Fujito Takatora cannot enter the Uchiha clan's territory after all the back and forth. In the end it was still necessary for Zangief to take action himself. Fujito Takatora said with shame on his face, "Boss, I'm sorry, I can't help you." Zangief patted his shoulder and signaled him not to blame himself in order to divert his attention. Hoshino Feng said, "As a friend, I would like to invite you to my home after school. How about that? Fujito Takatora had never expected to be invited. He was so moved that he agreed immediately. After all, this was the boss's invitation, and it was his first time as a guest at someone else's home. But then he became nervous again, as if he was back to the time when they first met. Don't worry, my parents are very easy to talk to. It's my first time bringing someone home, but you need to practice your temper and stop being so nervous all the time, Hoshino Kaede said seriously. Fujito Takatora also knew his own temperament and was determined to change himself. The day passed quickly, and teacher Aizawa looked up at the time and then announced the end of school in an instant. The crowd rushed out the door in a scramble. Hoshino Kaede and Fujito Takatora were walking slowly on the street, and coincidentally they met Uchiha Nozomi. Wang, are you going home? Seeing Uchiha Wang, Zingai Feng's eyes rolled. A plan came to his mind, and he immediately waved and spoke enthusiastically. Uchiha Wang said with a cold face and a cold tone. This is still for the sake of our classmates. No, I want to go practice. Is that so? There's no rush to practice. Do you want to come to my house? Zingai Feng made an invitation. Uchiha Wang was stunned for a moment, then frowned and said, no, I'm busy. Zingai Feng was not surprised by this, but he would not give up and immediately turned around. How about you come with me to my house and I'll practice with you in the next few days? The Uchiha suddenly became conflicted, wavering from side to side. Seeing this, Zingai Feng added fuel to the fire and tried to persuade him with all kinds of reasons. Finally, after his eloquent persuasion, Uchiha Wang reluctantly nodded and agreed. Most of it was because of the chance to fight him, but Zingai Feng was very satisfied with this, but he did not take the two home immediately. Instead, he turned around and looked towards a hidden place. Fujito Takatora and Uchiha Nozomi were both confused and didn't know why they didn't leave, but they soon found out the answer. I only heard a faint smile on Zingai Feng's face, and he spoke in a light tone. You two have been following me for so long, why don't you come out and meet me? As soon as these words were spoken, the two people beside him suddenly realized and became alert. Being followed for so long would have been extremely fatal on the battlefield, but fortunately it happened in the village. Hoshino Kaede's extremely calm words left the two hiding people with no way to refute, so they had to slowly walk out and reveal their figures. When Fujito Takatora saw the two of them, he was stunned, and even Uchiha Wang narrowed his eyes. Is there anything Ikumi-san can do for you? And this, Hoshino Kaede knew Aizawa Ikumi, but she didn't know the one next to her, Hinata Kazumi. She replied calmly, so it's Kazumi-san. I wonder what you want to do by following us. Hoshino Kaede smiled, and his tone seemed like he really didn't know. Hearing this, Aizawa Ikumi and Hinata Kazumi looked at each other, and finally the former blushed and spoke casually, nothing, I just happened to be on my way, so I stopped by for dinner. Is that so? Zingai Feng smiled mischievously, the smile on his face not diminishing at all. The two of them looked around and didn't dare to look at him. Fortunately, Zingai Feng later gave the two of them a way out. Since we're going to have a meal, how about we go to my house for dinner as companions? Chapter 21. Enemies meet on a narrow road. The two children were obviously unprepared and were at a loss for what to do with Feng Zingai's invitation. Uchiha Wang couldn't stand the two people procrastinating anymore and spoke directly to Hoshino Kaede. Why invite both of them? Weaklings don't deserve to be invited. Hoshino Feng could see that Uchiha Wang, like most Uchiha, was a person who believed in the strong. In their eyes, only the strong have the right to speak and are qualified to make decisions. Hearing Uchiha Nozomi's contemptuous words, Aizawa Ikumi, as the leader of the class, couldn't bear it without saying a word. I rolled up my sleeves and was ready to fight him with real weapons. Uchiha Wang was naturally not afraid of him. There was provocation in his eyes, and the desire to fight was stirring in his heart. The smell of gunpowder was so strong that the people around the two men hurriedly pulled them apart, and he kept persuading her, Wang, don't be impulsive. This is a street. If you fight, the teacher will put you in solitary confinement. Fujito Takatora used all his strength to persuade him earnestly. No matter who it is, if they start a fight on the street, Mr. Aizawa will definitely put them in solitary confinement. He didn't want to be locked up in a dark confinement cell. He was afraid. Hinata Kazumi's face was no longer calm, and he leaned over to whisper in her ear, Ikumi, now is not the time to fight. In response, the two of them snorted at each other, turned their heads away, and didn't want to see each other. Seeing this scene, Zingai Feng touched his chin and said with interest, I think you two will get along well in the future. His words were strongly opposed by the two. Whoever gets along with him, Uchiha Wang, will not associate with him. Humph, people like him deserve to have no friends. The two men were confronting each other, heads butting each other, competing with each other. neither of them giving in even if someone was pulling him aside. He couldn't be stopped. Hoshino Feng shook his head helplessly, then decided to end the battle quickly, and then gave each of them a slap in the face. Bang! Bang! The dull and crisp sound made Todao Takatora and Hinata Kazumi take a step back in fear at the same time. They subconsciously covered their foreheads, and a look of fear appeared in their eyes. Asshole, what are you doing? Hoshino Kaede. The two people who were hit were glaring at each other and shouting. Zingai Feng was very satisfied with this, and then walked forward, waving his hand without looking back. If you keep fighting, the sun will soon set. Are you going to leave or not? Uchiha Wang glared at Aizawa Akumi, then followed without saying a word. After looking at each other, Aizawa Akumi and Hinata Kazumi decided to follow. A group of people came to Zingai Feng's house. I'm back. Feng Hoshino took off his shoes and shouted into the house. Sakura Kinomoto walked out and saw the people behind Kaede Hoshino at a glance. Huh? This is... Zingai Feng turned sideways and introduced, Mom, they are my classmates. I invited them to my home. Okay. Kinomoto Sakura's face was filled with joy, and she was extremely happy. You kid, you finally have a friend. Zingai Feng spread his hands helplessly and shrugged. Hello, Auntie. Several people greeted her, and Sakura Kinomoto was immediately overjoyed. After entering the room, Hoshino Kaede collapsed directly on the sofa. Fujito Takatora hesitated for a moment, but still sat down properly. Even Aizawa Akumi, who is always impetuous, is very well behaved in other people's homes, not to mention Uchiha Nozomi and Hinata Kazumi, who came from prominent families. Both of them learned etiquette since childhood, and it is ingrained in their bones, so there is no need to say more. Come on, eat some fruit first. Dinner will be ready soon. Sakura Kinomoto brought some fruit. Then, seeing the look on Hoshino Kaede's face, he became so angry that he lifted his ear with one hand. Zio Feng, the guests are all here. How can you be so rude? Hurry up and sit down. Sakura Kinomoto scolded without any politeness. He didn't care whether he would embarrass himself in front of his classmates faced with his mother's dominance. Zingai Feng had to temporarily avoid the limelight and sit still obediently. Sakura Kinomoto nodded in satisfaction, then looked at her classmates. Her expression instantly softened. If Zio Feng bullies you, tell Auntie and I'll take care of him. Several people looked at each other. Not knowing what to say, Hoshino Feng held his forehead helplessly. Seeing Aizawa Akumi's eyes rolling around, he had a bad feeling in his heart. Auntie, he bullied me in the classroom before. As soon as Aizawa Akumi opened her mouth, Hoshino Kaede swallowed her saliva and fled silently, but was stopped by the quick-eyed and quick-handed Sakura Kinomoto. Zio Feng, come, let's talk. Although he had a gentle smile on his face, Hoshino Kaede felt threatened by death before he could say anything to defend himself. Sakura Kinomoto lifted the back of his collar and walked into a separate room. Akumi, this isn't a good idea. Hinata Kazumi felt something was wrong. Aizawa Akumi snorted. What's the big deal? He is the one who provokes me. Seeing that she was so unreasonable, Uchiha Wang didn't give her any face and spoke directly. It's shameful to blame others for your inferior skills. What did you say? Aizawa Akumi glared at him, but Uchiha Wang was not at all inferior. The scene on the street reappeared, but everyone was more restrained because they were in someone else's home. After all, the situation was at a stalemate for a moment, and just as the two were about to compete again, Hoshino Yoda came back. You are. It came too suddenly, and the four little ones were immediately embarrassed, especially the aggressive Aizawa Akumi and Uchiha Nozomi. After a while, Hoshino Kaede limped back, not knowing what Kinomoto Sakura had done to him. Then I saw my father and four other people sitting opposite each other, and the atmosphere was a little stagnant for a moment. Seeing Hoshino Kaede coming back, Yang Ta waved at him. What happened to them? I saw two people confronting each other when I came in, Yang Tai said helplessly. That's okay. They fight to show their love. They won't feel happy if they don't fight. You'll get used to it. Hoshino Kaede was not surprised at all and spoke to Yang Ta on her own. He ignored the murderous looks from the two men. Really? Yang Tai touched his chin, feeling that he was out of date. It seemed like their relationship was not good. Zingai Feng patted the two men on the shoulders and said, we are all classmates. We will see each other sooner or later. Is it necessary to target them like this? X2 Zingai Feng was at a loss as these two people were naturally incompatible, but fortunately it didn't go too far at this time. Sakura Kinomoto had prepared dinner and greeted everyone. It's time to eat. Go wash your hands. It was dinner time, and for the sake of the food, the two of them reconciled temporarily. The dinner table was much quieter. They are all children, they have bad tempers, forget things quickly, and can't take their eyes off the delicious food. I have to say that Sakura Kinomoto's cooking skills are superb. After the meal, all the food was eaten. After dinner, Uchiha Wang once again asked to fight with Hoshino Kaede. This time, Xingai Feng did not refuse. He digested the food a little, and then brought a few people to the backyard. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22, The Tenacious Back. Uchiha Wang's whole body tense up, and he felt a little nervous inside, but the warlike factor in Uchiha's blood urged him to fight. The tension was soon replaced by calmness. He took a deep breath, and his mind raced as he devised a strategy. Others stood on the sidelines, eagerly awaiting the battle. Hinata Kazumi, as the oldest person present, is quite powerful and has already opened her Byakugan. The bulging nerves all around her eyes gave her unparalleled observation abilities. Fujito Takatoru was very worried, fearing that Uchiha Nozomi would be injured. "Boss, please be gentle." Hearing Fujito Takatoru's request, Hoshino Kaede rolled her eyes in annoyance. "Doesn't this guy worry about me? But I thought so in my heart, and it took it to heart. Come on, Uchiha, give that guy a good beating." Unlike the others, Aizawa Akumi clenched her fists and cheered for Uchiha Nozomi. He looked, gritting his teeth, as if he was still remembering what happened in the morning. Uchiha Wang simply ignored it, focusing his attention highly and leaning forward. Although it was night and Uchiha Nozomi did not open his Sharingan, even so, the eyesight of Uchiha people is better than that of ordinary people. Even in the pitch dark, they can still move as fast as rabbits and are not affected by the darkness at all. Uchiha Wang was seen hunching his body, like a cheetah ready to attack at any time. Full of danger, they are waiting for the right moment to act, and as soon as they catch the slightest sign of trouble, they will attack quickly, leaving no one a chance to breathe. He has a solid foundation and faces strong enemies with high morale and the courage to attack and confront them. Based on this point alone, his future path as a ninja will be smooth and his achievements will not be low. It is never too much to be cautious, especially in this crisis-ridden ninja world. Seeing Uchiha Wang's actions, Hoshino Kaede was deeply impressed, and his evaluation of him increased greatly in an instant. Like lightning, Uchiha Wang took the lead in attacking. Several kunai and shurikens flew out of his hands. Judging from their trajectories, they had no pattern at all and seemed to be thrown randomly. They posed no threat at all. Fujito Takatoru was even surprised and said, "Wang, you just threw it away casually." But then Aizawa Akumi glared at him and said, "Shut up, this is the Uchiha family's unique throwing technique. Don't talk nonsense if you don't understand it." When Fujito Takatoru heard this, he was instantly speechless and stopped talking. He just watched the battle in front of him. Xingai Feng's eyes lit up. The technique was so skillful that it was obvious that the artist had practiced for a long time. Don't underestimate these kunai. The chakra of ordinary ninjas is very limited. Even the Uchiha does not have much. Once the chakra is exhausted, the competition will become a test of physical skills. If you are not good at investing accurately, you can do a lot with it, and it is a means to help yourself survive. Kunai and shurikens flew out in a chaotic manner along pre-designed trajectories. The sound of iron colliding continued to ring out, and finally it attacked Xingai Feng at a very tricky angle. There were no way to avoid the blind spots, and because the yard was not big, Hoshino Kaede had no time to use ninjutsu to defend himself at this moment. Xingai Feng may only be able to sit and wait for death and admit defeat directly if it were someone else. Perhaps this would be the only way, but who can control time? Hoshino Feng slowly raised one hand and snapped his fingers elegantly, and the surrounding space changed. The kunai that had originally attacked like a meteor fell at a speed visible to the naked eye until it came to a standstill. This scene truly stunned everyone. They had never seen Hoshino Kaede control time before. I had only heard about it before, but now I have seen it with my own eyes, and it is simply amazing. This was the case for several people outside the field, but not for Uchiha Wang. His expression was extremely ugly in the face of this method. All visual physical attacks are ineffective. This made most of his methods invalid and useless. The CPU was spinning at high speed, and he was thinking through each tactic in his brain. Finally, his eyes darkened, and he moved forward at high speed. He knew very well that the difference in strength was too great, and the outcome was already determined, but he still wanted to give it a try. If he gave up easily, he wouldn't have come this far and been noticed by the Hokage. Persevere and you will see the day when the sun rises. Hoshino Feng took a stance, his eyes focused, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, then he took a step forward and rushed towards Uchiha Wang. Then, a hand-to-hand fight broke out. Uchiha Nozomi's physical skills are solid, and every move is extremely solid. In this respect, He is even better than Aizo Akumi. It can be seen that he has put a lot of effort in his daily life, and his physical strength is also very good. Zingai Feng exchanged dozens of moves with him, and his hands were swollen and red, and Uchiha Wang's eyes were calm without any ripples, so calm that it was scary, as if he didn't feel the pain in his hands. Aizo Akumi was deeply shocked when she saw this scene. Ask yourself, if it were her, there would be no way that there would be no sound at all. At the very least she would have rubbed it, but Uchiha Wang did it. He was focused and concentrated on the battle just based on this point. He is not as good as Uchiha Wang. She pursed her lips tightly and bit them with such force that they broke. The bright red blood flowed into her mouth, bringing with it a slightly sweet taste, which stirred up waves in his heart. The battle was still going on. The sound of flesh hitting flesh was endless, and everyone was sweating at this time. Uchiha Wang's face was bruised and swollen, with bruises all over his face. His clothes were already soaked with sweat, but even though his arms were sore, he was still waving them. Compared to his appearance, Hoshino Kaede is in much better condition. After all his intense physical training was not in vain. This gave him a substantial boost in both his stamina and endurance, ensuring he had enough stamina to sustain the fight. But he also had a bruise on his face, which was the result of his carelessness. You actually still have the strength, Uchiha Wang said breathlessly. His hands were shaking and he could hardly maintain his fists. Hoshino Kaede's chest rose and fell slightly, showing that he still had some strength left. He said with admiration, "You are very strong. At least in my opinion, your willpower is far beyond your peers and even stronger than some ninjas." Hoshino Kaede's praise did not make Uchiha Wang happy. His eyes darkened, and then anger rose and he roared, "What's the use? I'm still too weak to protect my family." The sudden roar silenced the others. They looked confused, not knowing what was going on. Zingai Feng was silent for a moment, walked forward and said sincerely, "Can you tell me what happened?" Uchiha looked into those bright and dazzling eyes and left without saying a word. Zingai Feng did not try to keep him, but just watched him leave without saying goodbye. The others finally came to their senses and came forward to ask. Zingai Feng shook his head, staring at the figure that was already moving away, and said, "I don't know, but I think he has a tragic past." Chapter 23. You actually investigated me. Uchiha Wang left without saying goodbye, and Yangta came over to ask what happened. Hoshino Feng said that there were some minor conflicts and asked him to handle it himself, and simply fooled him away. The rest of the people stayed for a while and then left one after another. Before leaving, Hinata Kazumi turned around and said something. "I will ask about Uchiha Nozomi, maybe I can find out something." Hoshino Kaede smiled and accepted it happily. "Thank you Kazumi-san for your help." Hinata Kazumi frowned, then let go. "Just call me Kazumi. I think it's nice to be friends with you." After saying that, he turned and left, leaving Zingai Feng with a smile on his face as he murmured, "Feeling good?" "I think so too," he thought narcissistically. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, a month has passed, and Zingai Feng has also been in school for a month on that day. Except for Uchiha Nozomi, the others often walked together, went to school together, and went home together. After that day the relationship gradually warmed up and we became friends, without the restraint we had before. After school, Hinata Kazumi suddenly said, "I found out about Uchiha Nozomi." As soon as the words fell, Zingai Feng asked curiously, "How?" Hinata Kazumi pursed her lips, seeming to find it difficult to speak. After all, such an experience was truly regrettable. He took a deep breath and slowly explained the reason. Before the establishment of Konoha, the war had never stopped and the fighting among ninjas continued. The Uchiha clan is no exception. On weekdays, patrols are carried out to ensure the safety of the outskirts of the clan. Uchiha Nozomi's brother, Uchiha Tetsuo, was on that patrol team. They thought everything was normal, but the unexpected happened so quickly and they were ambushed by ninja attacks. The entire patrol was wiped out, but if that was all, it wouldn't have been enough to worry Hinata Kazumi. After all, in the ninja world, the death of family members can happen at any time, and separation and death are always experienced. But afterwards, rumors spread from somewhere that Uchiha Tetsuo was a spy. For a time, the news spread from 1 person to 10 people, and from 10 to 100 people. There were many different opinions and speculations. Public opinion quickly erupted, and all the clan members came to seek an explanation. Later, the clan leader came forward and calmed the storm, but it left an indelible shadow in Uchiha Nozomi's heart. At that time there was more to the incident. Although the patriarch came out to calm the situation, the anger in people's hearts was still burning. Out of fear of the clan leader, those people dared not to do anything openly and had to trip him up secretly. Uchiha Chen's pension was divided among them. Only the elderly grandmother and the young Uchiha Nozomi were left at home, and they were often bullied by people who came to their house. These things were done in a very secretive manner and there was no way to trace them. Over time, Uchiha Wang grew up in such an environment. Hinata Kazumi said so much in one breath that her mouth was almost dry. This incident caused a huge sensation at the time, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to find out about it. Fujito Takatora clenched his fists and waved them angrily. He, who had always been a coward, was filled with rage, not to mention others. No wonder he cares so much about strength and improving himself. Zingai Feng shook his head and said with emotion, I guess he wants to clear his brother's name and prove his innocence. When Aizawa Akumi heard this, she immediately muttered, I never expected that guy to have such an experience. Zingai Feng raised his eyebrows and said in a teasing tone, after hearing so much, do you want to give way to him in the future? Aizawa Akumi was stunned for a few seconds, then glared at him and said awkwardly, Who wants to let him? I won't. Hoshino Kaede looked her up and down, nodding from time to time. Aizawa Akumi was almost pissed off by his gaze. Just as she was about to say something, Hoshino Kaede spoke first. Now that everything is clear, let's go find him. Everyone nodded, and then with a clear goal in mind, they headed straight for the grove not far from the school. Every time after school, he would go there to train by himself. As for how he knew, the Byakugan's observation ability is well deserved. Even the Sharingan cannot match it. Call out. As the group came in, they heard the sound of collision caused by Kune. Everyone looked at each other and touched it. The climate in Konoha is mild, and the trees grow very lushly. After some effort, I pushed aside the bushes. What came into view was the figure of Uchiha Nozomi training hard. Zingai Feng looked closely and found that he had weights tied to his wrists and feet as well, so he sighed. If we keep working this hard, I'm afraid someone will lose the first place. There was a hint of sarcasm in his tone, and you didn't have to think to know who he was talking about. Aizawa Akumi snorted in dissatisfaction, but didn't say anything else, as if she agreed. Seeing that she did not refute, Hoshino Feng did not say anything else and watched Uchiha Wang training quietly. They all kept silent in tacit agreement, waiting until he was exhausted and sat down to rest before coming out. You will harm your body if you train like this. The voice of Hoshino Kaede sounded from behind. Uchiha Wang subconsciously tensed his body and took a fighting stance, and then he saw Hoshino Feng and others slowly walking towards him. How did you know I was here? After a brief moment of astonishment, Uchiha Wang's face turned red, as if his secret had been discovered. Also, how long have you been here? Faced with his excited inquiries, Zingai Feng answered him honestly, I just watched all of your training. It didn't take long. Hearing this, Uchiha Wang immediately said in shame and anger, you actually said it so easily. It was not difficult to see that he was already incoherent and his face was red. Hoshino Kaede chuckled, thinking that he was quite cute like this, but he did not forget what they were here for. Ignoring his ashamed and angry expression, he sat down, and the others followed suit. No one said a word, and the atmosphere suddenly became strange, which made Uchiha Wang feel something was wrong. He took a few steps back, wondering if it was because of what happened a month ago. After all, we left in a hurry, which was a failure no matter how you think about it. I was so excited at the time that I didn't think too much about it. I couldn't help but feel upset when I thought about it afterwards. He felt that what he thought was right, almost correct. Just as Uchiha Wang was thinking about how to make amends, the others looked at each other and secretly decided who would speak in the end. It was decided that Hinata Kazumi would do it. As she knew more and had a less strong personality, he is the most suitable candidate among the few. Hinata Kazumi considered the appropriate words and spoke softly. We know what happened to you before. These words were like a nuclear bomb, exploding in Uchiha Wang's heart, and he couldn't calm down for a long time. After a brief moment of unconsciousness, Uchiha Wang became visibly angry. You actually investigated me. He was like a young lion in the rage. There was a gleam of pain in his eyes, and the most unbearable memories in his heart were exposed to the sun. The defenses he had built up in his heart suddenly collapsed and shattered. Chapter 24, Konoha Year 7 Valley of the End. His thoughts were instantly pulled back to the painful past, and he seemed to be in that dark corner again, feeling helpless and lonely. His heartbeat quickened, blood rushed to his cheeks, and he clenched his fists, trying to release the anger in his heart. Hinata Kazumi was shocked by Uchiha Nozomi's reaction. She didn't expect his reaction to be so intense. She tried to explain, but Uchiha Nozomi didn't give her a chance. Why are you doing this? What right do you have to investigate my past? Uchiha Wang's voice was filled with a hint of despair and sadness. The others watched silently. They didn't know how to face Uchiha Wang's anger. They originally just wanted to help him, but now it seems that they did the wrong thing. Hoshino Kaede sighed softly, trying to calm Uchiha Nozomi down. Wang, We don't want to hurt you. We just want to understand you and help you. We know you have been through a lot of pain, and we want to help you out of the shadow." Xingai Feng's voice was full of concern. Uchiha Wang's emotions calmed down a little, but his eyes were still full of hostility. "You don't know me at all. How can you help me? You just want to pry into my privacy and satisfy your curiosity." Uchiha Wang's voice was still cold. Hoshino Kaede shook her head gently, her eyes firm and sincere. "Wang, we are your friends and we just want to help you. We know you have been through a lot of pain, but we also know that you are a strong and brave person. You don't need to bear all the pain alone. You can let us help you share it." Xingai Feng's voice was full of strength and encouragement. Uchiha Wang's heart moved, and he began to think about what Hinata Kazumi said. He knew that she was sincere, she was his friend, and she only wanted to help him. "Are you really willing to help me?" Uchiha Wang's voice was filled with doubt. Xingai Feng nodded gently, his eyes full of determination. "Of course, we are willing to help you. We are your friends and we will always support you," Hinata Kazumi said quickly, her voice full of determination. Uchiha Wang's eyes softened a little, and he began to relax his guard. He knew that he was not alone. He had a group of true friends who were willing to help him through any difficulties. "Thank you." Uchiha Wang's voice was filled with a hint of gratitude and relief. It had been a long time since anyone had spoken to him like this. "I felt a sense of relief in my heart, and my thoughts were constantly drawn far away, returning to the happy times of my childhood." Hoshino Kaede smiled, then changed the subject and spoke very seriously. "But I still want to say that your training is not standardized. This is just squeezing your potential. If you keep practicing like this, your body won't be able to handle it. Be careful of dying young." At the end, Xingai Feng was still in the mood to joke with him to liven up the atmosphere. The sad atmosphere swept away. Uchiha Wang's cheeks turned red when he said that. He glared at him fiercely and said, "I know." Hearing such angry words, Aizawa Akumi said angrily, "Knowing that you are still like this, I don't want your body anymore." Xingai Feng nodded seriously, with a smile on his face, and said, "Look, even you said so. I'm not the only one who thinks this is inappropriate." Uchiha Wang was silent for a moment, and then a muffled voice came out, "I will pay attention and won't do this again next time." Upon seeing this, the group smiled with satisfaction. Being able to make such an arrogant person admit his mistake, it seemed that he really realized his problem. "Since we are here, let's train here. You are not in a hurry to go home anyway," Hoshino Kaede suggested. Everyone nodded. It doesn't matter where you train. Time passed like flowing water and night fell. The high-intensity training made them too tired to talk. After relaxing a little, everyone looked up at the stars. The clean and clear sky made the stars extremely conspicuous, and several meteors streaked across the sky. Exactly 5 as the meteors drew graceful trajectories in the sky, they looked up at them, silently made their inner wishes and prayed for peace. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye it is already the 7th year of Konoha. On this day, something big happened. Boom! A loud noise that shook the earth and sky made everyone tremble in their hearts, and everyone looked into the distance. "Ben! Come back!" A tall figure stood there, his eyes filled with sadness and his tone full of pleading. It was the First Hokage of Konoha, Senju Hashirama. Opposite him was Uchiha Madara, who was known as the Shura of the ninja world. The two strongest fighters in the current ninja world are now facing each other with swords. The earth is collapsing, and the mountains and rivers are shattered. A desolate scene appeared here, as if the end of the world had come, which shows how powerful and destructive it is. "We are inseparable friends. We have experienced countless battles and founded Konoha village together. Why can't we join hands again and work together for peace?" There was no expression on Ben's face, only endless indifference. His eyes were like dead water, without a single ripple. "Hashirama, you are too idealistic. Human desires will never disappear, and peace is just a luxury. Only through strength can we get true peace. I believe that only strength can create a peaceful world, just like we did before. Use absolute force to force them to make peace." He spoke each word clearly, as if he was stating the facts. But it is true that without their absolute power, the fragile peace we have today would not be possible. Hashirama felt bitter in his heart. He knew it very well, but power could not exist forever, just like death was inevitable. "But we can't just give up like this, even if there's only a glimmer of hope." His voice was firm and his eyes were bright and unshakable, which was what he had been striving for till now. Madara shook his head slightly. Obviously, neither of them could convince the other, so he decided to use strength to speak. A majestic aura unfolded instantly, and several cracks covered the ground. Madara's eyes gradually became cold, and the meaning was self-evident. Hashirama took a deep breath, closed his eyes sadly, and then opened them again suddenly. Madara, I won't let you succeed. I will use my life to protect Konoha village and maintain peace. The corners of Madara's mouth slightly raised, and a hint of mockery flashed in his eyes. Hashirama, you are still so naive, so hopeless. His voice was full of disdain and sarcasm, as if Hashirama's determination was just a stupid act. In his eyes after saying this, a chilling aura enveloped the entire place. His eyes spun rapidly, and his pupils turned scarlet. This is the Uchiha clan's Sharingan, which possesses great power. Facing Uchiha Madara, Senju Hashirama did not dare to slack off at all. He clasped his hands together and instantly entered the Sage mode. Chapter 25 Ending, Hidden Shura. In Sage mode, Hashirama exudes powerful chakra fluctuations, and his eyes become more determined. He knew that this battle was related to the future of Konoha village and the peace of the entire ninja world. He must give it his all and not retreat at all. Uchiha Madara did not dare to be careless when he saw Hashirama enter the Sage mode. The power of the pupils exploded in an instant, and a cold aura swept across the entire place. A huge skeleton was formed suddenly, like a giant towering over the sky. Looking down from above, the huge size is terrifying, and ordinary ninjas don't have any desire to resist. This is the third power of the main Gekkai Sharingan, known as the power of God. When Hashirama saw Uchiha Madara use Susanoo, he did not show any weakness. He clapped his hands and shouted, "Immortal technique, true thousand hands." A chakra continued to vent, and the height of the Buddha suddenly rose to over 1,000 meters. Hashirama stood on the Buddha's head, looking down at him, and even Susanoo seemed so insignificant. A fighting spirit burned in Uchiha Madara's chest, and his pupil power was released endlessly and injected into his skeleton like a swelling. The illusory figure seemed to be turning into substance, like a real person. Two heart-pounding auras were silently confronting each other, and the pressure made the legs of the ninjas who had just arrived from afar tremble. So scary. Is this the power of God? Some ninjas who had never seen such a big scene could not help but mutter to themselves. This shocking scene impacted his mind, and he was in a trance for a moment. Abirama frowned, his palms were sweating, and he was extremely nervous. I prayed silently in my heart, "Brother, you must win. Hiruzen, see this? This is the ultimate showdown among ninjas." Danzo's eyes were fiery and his pupils were flickering, as if he was immersed in it and couldn't extricate himself. Sarutobi Hiruzen was in a daze and could not speak for a long time, not to mention Utane Kaharu and Madakato En, whose strength is far inferior to his. Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara stood facing each other. The surrounding chakra fluctuations distorted the space, foreshadowing that an earth-shattering battle was about to break out. The giant Buddha and the skeleton are facing each other from afar, competing against each other, and no one knows who will win or lose. Suddenly, Uchiha Madara took the first action. He laughed wildly, bit his fingers, and quickly formed seals. A pitch-black spell emerged, and a dark shadow appeared that blocked out the sky. Hashirama's eyes fixed. This amount of chakra, roar. The smoke and dust dissipated, revealing the true appearance as expected. Hashirama said inwardly, 9 tails, dark and evil chakra filled the space, and 9 huge tails were constantly flying. The corners of Uchiha Madara's mouth rose slightly, and then his mind moved, and Susanoo was directly cast on the 9 tails. Let the already impressive momentum be taken to a higher level. Hashirama, let's have a showdown. Uchiha Madara rushed towards him with a wild laugh. He was full of confidence, and it seemed as if the whole world was in his hands. Hashirama naturally would not retreat and rushed forward. The two top forces in the ninja world collided, and the shock waves shattered the mountains and cracked the earth. The ninja in the distance was thrown to the ground and couldn't move. Even a powerful figure like Tobirama, who was at the peak of cage level, was still overwhelmed and unable to breathe. It was an indescribable, terrifying force, as if the whole world was trembling with it. The roar continued, like thunder. The peerless power erupted wantonly, ravaging all living things. The battle between Hashirama and Madara entered a fierce stage. Their figures flickered in the light and shadow, interweaving like ghosts. Both of them tried their best and neither of them held back. Their eyes met, burning with endless fighting spirit, as if they were the only ones left in the world. After another round of fighting, the ground was sunken by their attacks, forming a bottomless canyon. The canyon was filled with smoke and rubble, like scars on the earth. This earth-shattering battle caused them all to suffer considerable damage. The previous big moves can no longer be used, and only simple ninjutsu and taijutsu can be used. But with their strength, even at ordinary levels, it is still unattainable. Kunai collided with each other, sparks flew, and there was even the sound of detonating talismans. Their movements were getting faster and faster, like the breeze in the sky, making it impossible to see their figures clearly. Finally, after a long and intense battle, the physical fatigue allowed Hashirama to seize a flaw in Madara. Just a hint was enough to be fatal. With a flash of light, Hashirama's iron kunai pierced through his chest. A bright red blood immediately stained his clothes, and there was a hint of disbelief in Uchiha Madara's eyes. It seemed as if such a ridiculous way of dying was impossible, but the fact is irrefutable. Even a strong person will have a moment of relaxation. What determines victory or defeat is often that insignificant detail. The light in Uchiha Madara's eyes suddenly dimmed, and he fell heavily backwards. Hashirama stood in front of him with an expressionless face, wondering what he was thinking. Boom! Dark clouds covered the sky, and a flash of lightning streaked across the sky. The next moment, raindrops fell from the sky and hit the two of them. Hashirama's eyes were reminiscing, his thoughts flying far away, as if he had returned to the scene when they first met. The scene changed, and the two tribes were fighting for a long time, with countless casualties. Then, the two of them worked together to establish Konoha. To this day, the sword is used against each other. Sadness seemed insufficient to describe the scene at this moment. Hashirama was silent for a long time, lost in thought. The layers of dark clouds in the sky seemed to reflect his mood at the moment. After a while, her sad eyes moved away from his body, looked somewhere, and the corners of her mouth rose slightly. Come out. The next second, as his words fell, ripples appeared in the space in front of him, as if a stone was thrown into a calm lake. The figure of Zingai Fen slowly appeared with an awkward smile on his face. Teacher, hey, what a coincidence. Hashirama raised his eyebrows, then threw a heavy punch, causing Hoshino Kaede to suddenly have stars in his eyes. Good boy, you almost fooled me. You are really good at hiding. Zingai Fen chuckled, rubbed the back of his head, and said, thank you for the compliment. It's still a little short of perfection. He seemed like the type who would shine brightly with a little sunshine, but Hashirama just shook his head and laughed, and said nothing more. Seeing this, Hoshino Kaede looked at Uchiha Madara's corpse. His eyes flashed with light and then disappeared. At this time, Hashirama said, it's time to go. After that, he used his remaining chakra to make a coffin, then sink it into the earth. Hashirama took Kaede Hoshino's hand and slowly left us for the Nine Tails. After it woke up, it was pinned down by the wood release. Its tragic fate was about to begin to turn. Feng Zingai lowered his head, silently thinking about the corpse. Just now one thing was confirmed, it was just an empty shell and not Uchiha Madara's body. I guess he took advantage of Hashirama's distraction and sadness and used his energy to run away. He did not remind Hashirama, and even if he had, there was nothing he could do at the moment before he arrived. Uchiha Madara had already left, and his aura had already disappeared thousands of miles away. Finding it now is like looking for a needle in a haystack, which is extremely difficult. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.